the TKDS Sports Network. Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington. We're back for another episode of Sports Now, and it's a big episode coming up today. We are talking round one of the OHSAA high school football playoffs. Cannot wait. Playoff time is here. Week 11. We're going to start to see teams, unfortunately, their season will start to come to an end.
Yeah, we've already seen quite a few teams, their seasons already coming to a close with the fact that they didn't make the postseason, but it's only going to continue to increase that number of teams whose seasons are going to be coming to an end. You just hope it's not your team in this postseason. You just hope your team can make it all the way to the state championship game and maybe even be state champions, but we're just going to keep seeing teams get knocked out every single week from here on out.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe that it's already towards the end of football season, but at the same time, the season is just beginning. Now you have all the teams that have made the high school playoffs across the state of Ohio. Think about it this way, 64 teams for each division. There's 7 divisions in Ohio, so Matt, you're more of the math whiz here. Can you do that in your head, or do you need a few minutes?
64 times 7?
Yes.
That is 448, I think. I'm going to go ahead and
I'll go with you. I'll go with you. Either way, there's still a lot of football teams, but that number is just going to be cut in half each and every week from here on out. A lot of teams have their sights at bringing home a state title, and guess what? The road to Canton starts now. 448 high school football teams still eligible for a trip to Canton. Cannot wait. Playoff time is here. It's hard to see. It's already here. But, hey, we have an action-packed show for you guys playing here today. In fact, we just mentioned 28 regions. There's 7 divisions, all with 4 regions each across the state of Ohio. We have to go. Last week, Matt, on this show, we went through all 28 regions in 2.5 hours. That was a world record. This week, we have to do it within an hour and 45 minutes because we have a great couple of guests coming on. TJ Downing will be joining us at 6 o'clock, and Coach George Howard will be joining us as well at 6:30. So 7 divisions, 28 regions. Let's get into it. We're going to start, and we're just going to name all the playoff games within that division, and then later we will backtrack and talk about some of the best games to watch out for. Let's start with Region 28. Region 28, we will see the 16 seed Tri-County North. They will be squaring off against the number 1 seed Marion Local. The Marion Local Flyers undefeated once again. No surprise there. They're the 1 seed. They have home field advantage. The 15 seed Laughlin will be taking on Ansonia. The Tigers undefeated as well, 10-0. They captured the number 2 seed in Region 28. St. Henry, the 14 seed, will take on Riverside, the 3 seed. We will see New Bremen, the reigning Division 7 state champions. They do make it into the playoffs. They will be taking on number 4 seed Cincinnati College Prep Academy. And then the 12 seed Bradford will be taking on 5 seed Minster. 11 seed Fort Loramie will take on 6 seed Southeastern Local. Number 10 seed Mechanicsburg will take a trip to St. Bernard and will take on St. Bernard Elmwood Place, who was the 7 seed. And your 9 versus 8 seed, Lehman Catholic, they were the 9 seed. Their take on Cedarville, who was the 8.
And yeah, since we got to go quick, we're going to immediately jump to now Region 27.
We're backtracking. We're talking about those games.
We'll break down some of those games. Just talking about backtracking and breaking down. Springfield Catholic Central, a home team last year, not even making it this year. That's crazy for that region. But now moving on to Region 27. Byrne Union, the 16 seed, will be on the road against Reedsville Eastern, who took the 1 seed. Then we've got Shadyside as the 15 seed. They will take on Beaver Eastern, who holds on to the 2 seed. Bridgeport at the 14 seed. They will be on the road against Caldwell. And then you have Sciotaville Community. They are the 13 seed. They will take on Fairfield Christian Academy. Bishop Rosecrans, they are the 12 seed. They will take on Hannibal River. They are the 5 seed. Continuing to move forward, the 11 seed Bealsville, they will move on and they will face off against Portsmouth Notre Dame, who holds on to the 6 seed. Miller, they will face off against 7-seeded Waterford. And the 8 versus 9 seed Monroe Central holds on to home field advantage against South Gallia.
On to Region 26. We are staying in Division 7. Region 26, Montpelier will take on the 16. Will take the 16 seed. They will go on the road to face off against undefeated and a very good Hopewell Loudon squad. 15 seed Edon will take on Tiffin Calvert. They grab the 2 seed. The number 14. Actually, I beg your pardon. The number 15 seed was Crestview. They will be taking on Tiffin Calvert. Edon was able to get the 14 seed, meaning they will take on number 3 seed Waynesfield Goshen. The number 13 seed Arlington will take on number 4 seed Antwerp. Number 12 seed North Central capture the 12 seed. They will hit the road to take on Patrick Henry. The 11 seed Upper Scioto Valley will take a trip to Macomb to take on Macomb, who was the 6th seed. The 10 seed Ayersville will take on Lima Central Catholic at Lima Central Catholic High School, who was the 7th seed. And then your 9 versus 8. Leipzig will get the 9 seed. Pandora Gilboa captures the 8 seed.
And now moving on to the very last region we have in Division 7, 16 seed Conotton Valley. They will face off against Dalton in the first round of the postseason. Now moving on, McDonald, they will face off against Danville. That is a 15 versus 2. Lisbon David Anderson, the 14 seed, they will be on the road against Western Reserve. St. Paul, the 13 seed, they'll be on the road against Toronto. And then Southern out of Salingville, they are the 12 seed. They will be on the road against Malvern. And then you have Steubenville Catholic Central as the 11 seed. They will be on the road against Lowellville. And then the 10 seed Monroeville, they will be on the road against New Middletown Springfield, who is the 7 seed. And the last matchup in Region 25, we will see Lucas go on the road against Hillsdale.
Matt, I will say this. Division 7, 2 teams we talked about, they're both in Region 28. They're the number 1 and 2 ranked teams in the state of Ohio, according to the AP poll. It's Marion Local and Ansonia. If we were able to see them square up in a Division 7, I believe it would be a regional final. What an incredible matchup that would be. You have the 2 top teams for Division 7 in Ohio for football. They're in the same region. That is a stacked Region 28. And Matt, while we're talking about Region 28 real quick, I'll go out and say for the record, 13 seed New Bremen Cardinals. They finished the regular season 4-6. They're from the Midwest Athletic Conference, and we know how powerful the MAC is. I think they get the upset over Cincinnati College Prep Academy, who is the 4 seed, after finishing 7-2 on the season.
Yeah, I could foresee that happening just with the fact that, like you mentioned, when it comes down to competitive conferences, especially around these divisions, when it's around Division 5, 6, and 7, if you're coming out of the MAC conference and you're making it into the postseason, you are going to be battle-tested going into the postseason, and you are going to be ready for whatever your opponent throws your way. That's why I can completely see it being possible that New Bremen ends up upsetting Cincinnati College Prep. Then you also have to look at the fact that, like you mentioned, Marion Local and Ansonia, both undefeated on the season, both in Region 28. It's crazy to know that one of those 2 teams is not going to have a chance to potentially play in the state championship game, where I'm not saying it should be this way, but Marion Local versus Ansonia, if they weren't in the same region, it's very possible that could have been a state championship matchup.
And, you know, a possible state championship matchup we could see later on down the stretch is the number 3 ranked team in the state of Ohio for Division 7 football. They're undefeated. That's Hopewell Loudon out of Region 26.
And yeah, Hopewell Loudon, I remember talking about them a little bit. I think it was around week 8 of the regular season. We were talking about this team looking so good so far throughout the year. And they were, I think, around 4 or 5 when it came to their seeding. But you take a look at the fact that last 2 games against really, really good teams, especially with one of those games being against Calvert, one of the teams that, it is the team who is currently in 2nd in Region 26. So not too surprising that after Hopewell Loudon took down Calvert, they were able to move themselves up a few spots, and it was not a completely dominant win, but it was a 19-7 win, which is good enough to give you enough points to move you up to that number 1 spot. Because if I'm not mistaken, they were behind Macomb, Calvert, and I think Patrick Henry at one point. I think it was, like I said, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Hopewell Loudon was sitting around 4th. They were behind Patrick Henry, Macomb, and Calvert. But 10-0 season, taking down some pretty tough opponents in the last few weeks of the year, puts Hopewell Loudon in that 1 seed.
And you know, Matt, we talk about how stacked Region 28 is for Division 7 football, of course, with Ansonia and the Tigers, and then, of course, Marion Local and the Flyers. But Region 26 also could put up an argument of being the most competitive region for Division 7 football. You have Hopewell Loudon, who's the number 3 team in the state of Ohio, according to the AP poll. You have Tiffin Calvert, who sits at 6. And you have Waynesfield Goshen, who capped off an undefeated season. They're number 9 in the state of Ohio. Patrick Henry at the 10 spot.
And yeah, you talk about competitiveness, and when it comes down to who we potentially see being state champions in Division 7, I'm not saying it's not possible for a team in Region 25 or a team in Region 27 to have a fighting chance, but you just take a look at how stacked Region 26 and Region 28 both are. Obviously, when it comes to Region 28, it's more top-heavy stacked when it comes to Marion Local, Ansonia, Riverside. Those are the teams that, when you take a look at this region, you might be able to say Cincinnati College Prep has a chance to making it to the state championship game. Minster, just because of the fact that they're out of the MAC and they're the 5 seed, you can't really put them away. You can't really put it in your mind that Minster's not going to make it. What do you mean? Minster's out of the MAC conference. I think if you come out of the MAC conference, it doesn't matter what division you're in. You've got a chance at making it to the state championship game. But when it comes down to it, like I said, you just get the feeling that Region 26, Region 28, whoever comes out of both of those two regions, we're probably, unless we see Region 26 play against Region 28 in the Final Four matchup, you get the feeling that it could be a Region 26 versus Region 28 state championship game.
Matt, I know that we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the show. Once we're going to have a quick segment between when we're done talking about all these 28 regions and all the divisions before our guests come on. So we're going to go through that. We're going to use that time to talk about upset games for across the state of Ohio to watch out for, what teams we think will be on upset alert. But Matt, heading into Division 7, do you feel like there are any sleeper teams outside of those teams that we just talked about? Hopewell, Loud, Marion Local, Ansonia, Minster, Calvert, so many great teams in Division 7. Is there a sleeper team to keep an eye out on?
I'm looking at, when you talk about sleeper teams, I think you have to keep an eye out for, and you have to look at New Bremen as potentially being a team that could play a little bit of spoiler here and there, could end up playing and could be putting teams on upset alert in and out. Another team that I'm keeping an eye out for, and they're also in Region 28, I don't think you can look too far away from what Southeastern Local has been able to do so far this season. 7-3 on the year. They hold on to the 6th seed. They've played spoiler in a few games so far this year. Obviously, they've got 3 losses. They lost to West Liberty Salem. They lost to West Jefferson. They did end up losing to Greenview. But all of those teams, those are teams that are divisions higher than Southeastern Local. Those are Division 6 and Division 5 opponents. So when it comes down to teams that could end up sneaking their way through and playing a little bit of spoiler in this postseason, I don't think you can look too far away from Southeastern Local potentially being that team.
You know, a couple teams that come to mind, and this is one of the teams that I'm shocked we didn't talk about, Dalton from Region 25. They are the number 1 seed in Region 25. But when we're talking about some of the top teams in Division 7 football across the state of Ohio, you have got to show some love to the Dalton Bulldogs, and frankly, we haven't. We did not show any love to the Dalton Bulldogs. Right now, they sit 5 in the OHSAA AP poll. I'm not going to say they have an easier region than Region 26, Region 28, but Dalton, that's a team that if they were able to square off, if they get all the way to the state Final Four and square off against Regions 26, 27, 28, Dalton, that is a team that could make a difference and really could pull some upsets later on down that stretch. I love how you talked about New Bremen. They're the reigning Division 7 champions for a reason, and not to mention, they're out of a tough MAC conference. So all those schools really come to mind. And going back to Region 26, Patrick Henry. I mean, Patrick Henry, they are one of the top teams in the state of Ohio. They're ranked 10 in the AP poll. Patrick Henry, they're the 5 seed in Region 26, but that's a team that has put together a nice season, a very tough schedule. Patrick Henry, they are battle-tested. That is a team that could pull some upsets later on down the stretch.
And yeah, I like that you brought up the Bulldogs out of Dalton when it comes down to teams to keep an eye out for, because you take a look at their schedule so far this year. Their closest game, obviously they lost 1 game, but when you hear this team and the fact that it was only a 7-point loss, it goes to show what kind of team this Bulldogs team is. They lost to Kirtland in Week 1. 14-7 was the final score of that game. You take a look at the remainder of the season, they faced off against 4 other above 500 teams, well, 5 500 or better teams. Mogador, 8-2. They won that game 47-14. They played against Smithville, who's 5-5, won 35-0. They beat Hillsdale 50-7. Hillsdale 8-2 on the season. Rittman 6-5 on the year. They beat them 47-6. And then Norwayne, whose only loss on the season was to Dalton, won 34-29. So this Bulldogs team is a team to keep an eye out for in the postseason.
Time for a break. Division 6 coming up when we return.
At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down. Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir. I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down. Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir. I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We welcome you back here to the TKDS Sports Network and Sports Now. Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington. We are talking Ohio high school football. In fact, round one of the postseason coming up. We're going over and mentioning every single matchup in the state of Ohio. 28 regions. Last week, we got it done in 2.5 hours. This week, we're going for a new world record, baby. It's going to be an hour and 45, at least. That's what we're hoping for. Let's move on, and we will go into Division 6. We're talking Division 6 now, Region 24. New Lebanon-Dixie claims the 16th spot. They'll be taking on the powerhouse Williamsburg, who is your top seed. 15 Troy Christian will take on another MAC school, Versailles, who captured the 2 seed. 14 seed Dayton Christian will take a trip to take on a red-hot Cincinnati Country Day squad. They're the 3 seed. Valley, the 13 seed, will play West Liberty Salem, who's the 4 seed. National Trail and Parkway actually tied for the 11 seed as well. National Trail, though, unfortunately for them, they did not win the tiebreaker. They're the 12 seed. They will be taking on 5 seed Tri-Village. Number 11 seed Parkway will be taking on Paint Valley, who is the 6th seed. Deer Park claims the 10th spot. They will be playing Twin Valley South, who is the 7 seed. And your 9 versus 8, Allen East will take a trip to Anna.
Now moving on to Division 6, Region 23. In the first round of the postseason, we will see Rock Hill out of Ironton. They will be on the road against Garraway. Grove City Christian, the 15 seed, they will be on the road against West Jefferson. Tuscarawas Valley, they are the 14 seed. They will be on the road against Fort Fry. Dawson Bryant, the 13 seed, they will be on the road against Northmore. Trimble, the 12 seed, they will be on the road against Elgin. Newcomerstown, they grabbed the 11 seed. They will be on the road against Grandview Heights. Bel Air, the 10 seed, they will be on the road against Nelsonville York. And then East Knox at the 9 seed will be on the road against Martins Ferry. The first few teams that did not make it into the postseason, 17 seed Buckeye Trail just missed out by less than 0.4 points. Northridge out of Johnstown, they were the 18 seed. They just missed out by half a point. And then Loudonville, they missed out by a point. They held on to the 19 seed.
Moving on to Region 22. Region 22, Kansas Lakota takes the number 16 spot at a 5-5 record. And before we move on with Region 22, this is a very competitive region. Only one team making it with a below 500 record. That's Ashland Crestview. And Ashland Crestview, they put together a tough regular season schedule, hence why they're in as the 13 seed with a losing record. Moving on, though, Kansas Lakota, the 16 seed, will play Columbus Grove, who is the 1 seed. Paulding will take on Bluffton, who is the 2 seed. 14 seed, Seneca East will play Colonel Crawford, who is the 3 seed. 13 seed, Crestview will play 4 seed Cary. Mapleton, who's the 12 spot, will play number 5, Columbia. 11 spot, Margaretta will play number 6, Ottawa Hills. The 10 seed, Winford, will take a trip to play Tenora from Defiance, who is the 7 seed, and your 8 versus 9, Black River the 9, Western Reserve the 8.
Moving on to now Region 21. Jackson, you brought up the fact that Region 22 is very competitive. No team inside of Region 21 in the postseason has a below 500 record. Now listing off all the teams, Columbiana, they have the 16 seed. Talking about how good this team is, they will face off against number 1 seeded Kirtland in the first round of the postseason. Southeast, they hold on to the 15 seed. They will be on the road against Rootstown. LeBray and Brookfield did end up tying for 13, but Brookfield held the tiebreaker. So LeBray, they are the 14 seed. They will be on the road against Mogador. And then United, they will have home field advantage against Brookfield. 12 seed Rittman, they will move and they will go on the road to Cuyahoga Heights, who holds on to the 5 seed. Crestview, the 11 seed, they will be on the road against Pymatuning Valley, who is the 6 seed. Then you have Mineral Ridge, the 10 seed. They will be on the road against Jackson Milton, who is the 7 seed. And then Cardinal out of Middlefield, they are the 9 seed. They will be on the road against Canton Central Catholic, the first few teams to not make it in and who are on the outside looking in who didn't make it. Independence, the 17 seed, Waterloo, the 18 seed, and Valley Christian School out of Youngstown, they were the 19 seed.
Matt, I'll go out and say this. I know some sleeper teams to talk about. Tri-Village, the number 5 seed when it comes to Region 24. They put together a 9-1 season. The Patriots' only loss on the season was to their in-conference foes, the Ansonia Tigers. Remember, Ansonia is ranked number 2 in Ohio for Division 7 football. Tri-Village, Matt, we've talked about them plenty of times heading into this postseason. In my mind, they're a little underrated. Not a little underrated. They're very underrated. Tri-Village, they're going to put together a great postseason run. Would not shock me to see them end up in the regional final.
And one team that I want to give some props to and give a little bit of a shout out to, how about Dixie making it into the postseason this year? The only time, at least from what I've been able to look for and look at, it's the first time that Dixie has made the postseason since the 2020 COVID year where every single team made it into the postseason. But before then, it's been at least a decade since Dixie has made it into the postseason, probably a lot further since Dixie made it into the postseason, but you got to be pretty happy with Dixie with the fact that they were able to make it into the field and into the postseason this year. You gotta feel pretty good and feel pretty happy for Dixie making it in this year.
Matt, going back, talking about Region 21, you have Kirtland, and Kirtland, what a tremendous program that is. They put together a tremendous season as well, a 9-1 year for Kirtland. Kirtland, the only one loss they had was to Perry, and Perry put together an undefeated season. The Perry Pirates, they're Division 5, Region 17. We'll be talking about them here in just a few minutes, and Perry is one of the top teams in the state of Ohio. Just look at the AP poll. They are the top team in the state of Ohio. Kirtland, they're the top team for Division 6. And Matt, to me at least, I don't know if there's any team that can take down Kirtland out of Division 6.
And yeah, that's one thing when it comes down to Kirtland. I talked about how good of a team this is. You talked about how good of a schedule they've put together. 2 of their 10 regular season games, the team they played ended with a below 500 record. 2 of their 10 games. You had Trinity, who finished 3-7, and then you had Grand Valley finishing 2-8. They played Cuyahoga Heights, 8-1. Perry was their only loss. Perry is undefeated, 10-0. Lutheran West, that's a Division 3 school. They beat them 49-14. Lutheran West went 7-3 on the season. We talked about Dalton, a really good team, 8-1 on the year. They took them down 14-7. And then you move further down the schedule, you take a look, they've got a bunch of teams that are around 500, but none of those games were close. You had Berkshire, who's 5-5, Harvey 5-5, Crestwood 5-5, Cardinal, they went 6-4. Those were all the games that Kirtland had where it was against teams right around, if not just above 500. The closest game they had of those 4 games was a 49-14 win. That was the closest game they had in that last 4-week stretch of the regular season against teams that were right around 500 or better. So this Hornets team, they were a team you had to watch out for last year. Nothing has changed. You have to watch out for this Kirtland team this year as well.
Yeah, and Kirtland, remember, they went all the way to the Division VI state championship before losing to Marion Local. They lost, I believe that game was 14-6. Marion Local was your Division VI state champions. Marion Local, the Flyers, they dropped from D6 to D7. D6 this season is wide open. There is no Marion Local Flyers team to stand in Kirtland's way. And Matt, Kirtland, this is a team that's played angry. They've played with a chip on their shoulder all season long. They want that state title. They want to avenge what happened last season in Canton.
And yeah, like you mentioned, you take a look at potential teams that could play spoiler to Kirtland. I mean, you always have to keep an eye out, and we've talked about it, and it's going to be talked about during the next division we cover too, because there is at least, I know there's at least minimum one MAC school. I think it's Coldwater. There might be another one, but I'm not 100% sure in Division 5. But Versailles, the number 2 seed in Region 24, you talk about, is there anybody that can take down Kirtland? If there's one conference I could say that has a chance, it's anybody coming out of the MAC conference. So Versailles, I wouldn't say that's the only team that can take down Kirtland, because you also have, if Austin Busher's playing good for West Jefferson, that Rough Riders team can dump a ton of points on anybody any given week. So West Jefferson's a team. They're the 2 seed in Region 23. There's some teams you got to keep an eye out for, but you just get the feeling that right now, especially with how the season has gone, I would say for Kirtland, the worst they're going to do this postseason is make it to the Final Four or make it to the state championship game. I feel like that's probably the worst we're going to see this Kirtland team play this postseason, just because of how good of a year they've had, how tough of a schedule they've put together for this regular season, and just the fact that it's Kirtland. We talk about MAC schools being pretty much consistent in making it deep into the postseason and making it into state championship matches in pretty much any sport. Kirtland for football, they are in the same boat as the MAC conference. They are a team that is going to make a good postseason run year in and year out. In this Hornets team, like you mentioned, there's no Marion Local in their way. They do have Versailles potentially as a team that could be in their way. Tri-Village, if that team continues to play at the level they've played at since that loss to Ansonia during the regular season, Tri-Village could be a team that puts up, not a scare, but puts up a fight against Kirtland. West Jefferson, like I said, if that offense is firing on all cylinders, they can take down anybody. They could take down Versailles. They can take down Williamsburg. They can take out anybody if that West Jefferson offense is firing on all cylinders. But it's the question is, you've got West Jefferson, it's if this happens. It's if this happens. For Tri-Village, it's if this happens. It's if this happens. For Kirtland, it's, yeah, they're going to make it pretty far into the postseason. There's really no question about it. And like you said, the fact that Marion Local is now in Division 7, obviously Kirtland probably would want to play Marion Local in the state championship game to get revenge on last season, but it's something that Kirtland might not have to worry about. Well, it's not that they might not have to. They're not going to have to worry about Marion Local this postseason.
Time for a break. Division 5 coming up when we return to Sports Now.
At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down. Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir, I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
how you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe. And I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Come on, guys, let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hey!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe.
And I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Moving on to Division 5, Jackson Lightcap Matthew Pennington. Glad you're with us. Just another reminder, folks, we are live in chat, so make sure to drop any comments down below in chat. And this is kind of our placeholder until we start having a phone line where fans can start calling into the show at will. So that'll be fun. We're working on that. It's still a new show, but also we're not just live on Thursdays. Make sure to tune in 4 to 6, Monday through Wednesdays as well. We talk about professional sports and college sports through those days. Make sure to follow the TKDS Sports Network on any social media pages or any platforms to get all the updates you deserve. Moving on to Division 5, we will start with Region 20. The 1 seed Germantown Valley View, the Spartans looking to avenge their Final Four loss a season ago against Ironton. They're back in the postseason as the 1 seed, 9-1 year for Germantown Valley View. They'll be taking on Williamsport Westfall. The 8 seed Bethel Tate will be playing Blanchester, who's the 9 seed. Chillicothe Zane Trace will take on Middletown Madison 4 versus 13. Purcell Marion claims the 5 seed. They will play Madera, who is the 12 seed. Waynesville, the 2 seed for Region 20, and they will take on number 15 seed Carlisle, also a Southwestern Buckeye League matchup. Springfield Northeastern will play Jamestown Greenview, a 7 versus 10. Brookville, the 2 seed, will take on Casstown Miami East, the 14 seed. Remember, Brookville, Waynesville tied for that 2 seed, and ultimately Waynesville ended up winning the tiebreaker. West Milton Union will face Preble Shawnee 6 versus 11.
And now moving on to Region 19. Out of Division 5, you take a look at the first round matchups. You have Worthington Christian as the 16th seed. You talked about Ironton. They hold on to the 1 seed. So Worthington Christian on the road against Ironton for the first round. Portsmouth, they took the 15 seed. They will be on the road against Fairland. South Point, the 14th seed, they will be on the road against Barnesville, who holds on to the 3 seed, the only undefeated team from this region as well. New Lexington, they hold on to the 13 seed. They will be on the road against Harvest Prep. And now Union Local, the 12 seed, they will be on the road against West Muskingum. Utica, the 11 seed, they will be on the road against Columbus Academy. Afrocentric Early College, they took the 10 seed. They will be on the road against Wheelersburg for the first round. And then the 8 versus 9, we will see Heath on the road against Portsmouth West. The first few teams on the outside that just missed out on making it into the postseason. Minford, they were the 17 seed. Centerburg, the 18 seed. And Piketon, they were the 19 seed.
You know, I switched to the OHSA and started reading the brackets, and we've been kind of bouncing back and forth between Joe Idle's website and the OHSA brackets, and I thought it'd make it a little bit easier, but I liked going back to what I'm just going to go back to doing what I was doing with Joe Idle's website. Moving on to Region 18, 16 seed Elmwood will go up against top-seeded, number 1 seed, undefeated Liberty Center. 15 seed Spencerville takes the road. Will take on Edison. 14 seed Fredericktown will play Archbold, who is the 3 seed. 13 seed Otsego will visit Oak Harbor, who is the 4 seed, undefeated Oak Harbor, by the way. Number 12 seed Highland will square off against number 5 seed Liberty Benton. Number 11 seed Indian Lake finishes with a 7-3 regular season record. They will play Coldwater from the Midwest Athletic Conference. They are the 6th seed. Your 10 versus 7 Pleasant from Marion will be squaring off against Eastwood from Pemberville. And then your 9 versus 8 Genoa area, they're the 9. They will face Huron, who is the 8. Your first couple of teams out, North Union, Port Clinton, and Willard.
And now moving on to the last region inside of Division 5, Region 17. First round matchups, we will see Crestwood, the 16 seed. They will be on the road against undefeated Perry. They took the 1 seed. Fairless, the 15 seed. They will be on the road against former state champion South Range out of Canfield. Liberty out of Youngstown. They are the 14 seed. They will be on the road against Norwayne. Then you have Triway out of Wooster, Ohio. They are the 13 seed. They will move and they will be on the road against Harrison Central. 5-seeded Garfield, the only other undefeated team in this region. They will host Connote in the first round of the postseason. Berkshire, the 11 seed. They will be on the road against Clearview. Edison, the 10 seed. They will be on the road against Ridgewood. And then the 8 versus 9 matchup, we will see Sandy Valley on the road against Lakeview. And the first few teams that did not make it into the postseason and were just on the outside, Orville, they took the 17 seed, just outside, didn't make it in. Smithville, the 18 seed, and Chagrin Falls, they were the 19 seed.
Matt, one aspect I want to look at, I'm going back into Region 18. Region 18, Coldwater as the 6th seed in Region 18. Again, for Division 6 and Division 7, we talked about the Midwest Athletic Conference. When it comes to Coldwater, that is a team that is ready to play. Coldwater, they're ranked number 5 in the state of Ohio according to the AP poll, but they also will have, if they are going to go to the state Final Four, they will eventually, possibly, barring any upsets, they're on pace to meet up with the number 1 ranked team, I beg your pardon, the number 2 ranked team in the state of Ohio when it comes to the AP poll, Liberty Center. When you look at the top, I'd even go top 7 teams in Region 18. There are 7 of the top Division 5 teams in the entire state. And, of course, when you have Edison, Coldwater, Liberty Center, Oak Harbor, Liberty Benton, that is a stacked bracket. That is going to be a tough region to come out of. And with it being such a tough region to come out of, these schools are going to be battle-tested. Whichever team comes out of Region 18, I think that they have a one-up when they enter the state Final Four.
And yeah, the one thing that I was just taking a look at it, and it's actually pretty interesting to see this. You take a look at all of the number 1 seeds. The only difference from a season ago, Valley View was the number 1 seed in their region last year. Liberty Center was the number 1 seed in their region last year. Ironton was the number 1 seed in their region last year. South Range is the only team of the 4, and all 4 of those teams ended up making it to the Final Four that I just mentioned. South Range, Valley View, Ironton, and Liberty Center, all 4 of those teams made it to the Final Four. Perry ended up taking that 1 seed from South Range. So I feel like it's very possible we could see a, not continuation, but a continuation of pretty much every single team we saw in the Final Four last year for Division 5. The only area that there might be some mix-ups and some changes, obviously, Perry, 10-0 on the season. By far, when it comes to the points gained, they were the clear-cut number 1 seed in Region 17, but South Range, they were the state champions a year ago. It's very possible we could see in Division 5 the same 4 teams making it to state that we saw last year, being South Range, being Liberty Center, being Ironton, and being Valley View.
You know, another team that could provide a sleeper team is Garfield, and the Garfield G-Men from Garrettsville, Ohio, putting together a 10-0 regular season run. They are the number 5 seed, but you take a look at who they played. They played not the toughest of schedules, but at the same time, it wasn't a cakewalk either. Garrettsville, Garfield, they are right now, as we sit, not in the top 10 for the state of Ohio when it comes to the AP poll. They're on the outside looking in. They were one of the schools that were an honorable mention, but Garfield, if they can get playing some consistent football heading into the postseason, I think Garfield is a team that could make a run and possibly could pull a couple of upsets as well.
And yeah, one team, you already brought them up, but it's a team that, I brought it up earlier when it comes down to conferences overall and just teams that come out of conferences that you have to keep an eye out for. You have to keep an eye out for Coldwater. No matter who it is they're playing against during this postseason, it doesn't matter if it's the state championship game. It doesn't matter if it's the first round of the postseason. If you face off against that Cavaliers team, you better be ready to play a perfect game of football, because that's the only way you're going to come away with a win against Coldwater. It doesn't have to be a picture perfect, everything goes amazing and everything is played perfectly throughout the game, but it's going to have to be very close to a perfect game if you want to take down Coldwater in the postseason.
And how about Region 20? The top 3 teams in Region 20 all coming out of the Southwestern Buckeye League. You have Brookville, Waynesville, and Valley View. 3 teams that are very, very capable of punching their ticket to the state Final Four later on here in November.
And yeah, especially when you take a look at when it comes down to this region and Region 20, you take a look at what Valley View has been able to do so far this season, and the team has looked really good, but they've also looked like they've been struggling a lot in the first half of games. It doesn't matter, like I said, it doesn't matter who's playing against Coldwater, you got to be ready for them. It doesn't matter who's playing against Valley View. If you can start off really hot against this Spartans team, there's a chance you could play spoiler and you could end up upsetting the Spartans. But it's not just that you have to play that first half phenomenally. We saw what Waynesville did against Valley View a week ago. They were fighting all the way until the final whistle in that fourth quarter, and that's why we saw the Waynesville Spartans come away on top 49-40 in that game. So if you're facing off against Valley View, you have to start off hot early in the game, and you have to continue that for a majority of the game. Otherwise, Valley View is going to do what Valley View does to everybody, and they'll claw their way back. They'll punish you. They'll put you down a few possessions, and they will not look back.
Valley View right now, they are ranked the number 6 team when it comes to Division 5 in the state of Ohio. And with them being the number 6 team ranked, it seems like they are coming into this postseason a little underrated as well. And Matt, you are right. This is a team that struggles in the first half, but you look at what they do in the second half. Valley View, there's no question about it. That is a second half team. And take a look at how they've been able to outscore their opponents this season. I mean, a couple weeks ago, I believe it was 21-20 at halftime against Edgewood. And Edgewood, that was a team that only won 4 games this season. Final score, 49-26. Brookville, Valley View, they were very close back in week 9 heading into the locker room. Valley View 49, Brookville 21. Valley View erupts in the second half. And that, if you're an opponent going up against the Valley View Spartans, that's got to be something that you have got to look at. You have got to play perfect football in the first half. You have got to get an advantage, because if it's a 1 or 2, even a 2-possession game heading into the second half, Valley View is going to run away with the game, because that is an incredible second half team.
And yeah, like I said, it's not just that you have to get yourself out to that kind of lead against Valley View, but you have to sustain it throughout the second half. Like you mentioned, and it's been pretty evident for Valley View for a majority of this season, this team is insanely good in the second half of football, especially if their back is against the wall and they are trailing going into that second half. We've seen Valley View in the second half of games this season absolutely dominate teams that looked like they might have been the team to play spoiler to the perfect season for Valley View. Waynesville, they were able to do it because they played a full 4 quarters of football. They didn't have, I think it was, you talk about the 1-point lead or the 1-point games that we've seen Valley View have at the half against a ton of teams. I think Waynesville was up 1 point at the end of the first half. I think it was 21-20, something along those lines in that game, 28-27, something along those lines at halftime. And Waynesville did not let up. That's why the Waynesville Spartans were able to take down Valley View in the regular season, and that's why they were the only team to be able to do that so far this season. It's because they didn't let up after that half, and they did not allow Valley View to control the football and control the game in the second half.
And not to mention Valley View, I mean, I'll go out and say this, and Matt, I think you agree with it. You may disagree. I know there's a lot of people out there that may agree or disagree with this. when it comes to high school football or high school sports in general, Valley View, when it comes to their second half adjustments, the adjustments they make in the locker room, I think they are the best team in the state of Ohio when it comes to making second half adjustments. When it comes to making adjustments at the intermission and coming out and playing in the second half, that's the best team in Ohio when it comes to adjustments at the intermission.
I'll say they're one of the best. I wouldn't say that they are guaranteed out of all of the hundreds and hundreds of teams that there are in the state of Ohio. I wouldn't say that they are by far, hands down, nobody's even close to making the kinds of adjustments they do at the end of the first half. But they're definitely one of the best teams in the state of Ohio when it comes down to making those adjustments at halftime, going into the second half, and playing an amazing second half of football. Valley View's definitely up there for one of those teams that's the best. And one thing that you talked about them being ranked number 6 in the state, saying that they might be slept on a little bit coming into the postseason. With the loss in the last week,
it just speaks high on Division 5.
With the fact that they lost in Week 10, I think that it makes sense that they dropped a few spots, and I don't think that them being dropped down to 6 is people sleeping on them. I think that's just, you lost Week 10, you don't deserve to stay at the spot you're at. Granted, you lost to a very good Waynesville team, but I don't think that that's voters sleeping on Valley View. I think that's just the fact that Valley View lost their last week of the season.
And that just speaks high on the competition when it comes to Division 5 football. That is probably that's probably the most competitive division we're going to see down the stretch this postseason. Time for a break. Division 4, they're up next.
It's easy to take the air in your home for granted. But it's not just about being hot or cold. It's about having clean air. For some of us, this is critical. At McAfee, we'll provide you with long-term solutions to improve the air you breathe.
Do you need your inhaler, bud? Oh, I'm good, thanks.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. It's easy to take the air in your home for granted. But it's not just about being hot or cold. It's about having clean air. For some of us, this is critical. At McAfee, we'll provide you with long-term solutions to improve the air you breathe.
Do you need your inhaler, bud? Oh, I'm good, thanks.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We welcome you back here to the TKDS Sports Network. Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington. Let's move on to Division 4. On to Division 4. And when it comes to Division 4, we will start with Region 16. Region 16, the 16 seed is going to be the Dayton Dunbar Wolverines. Dayton Dunbar coming out of the DPS. They will be taking on the powerhouse out of the SBAAC, Clinton Massey, in round 1. We will see Urbana out of the Central Buckeye Conference take a trip to Chillicothe Unioto to take on the Sherman Tanks, who are the 2 seed. The number 14 seed McLean will play Taft, who is the 3 seed. 13 seed Roger Bacon takes a trip, and they will face Kettering Alter. The 12 seed Reading will take on Indian Hill, who is the 5 seed. 11 seed Washington will square off against Cincinnati, Wyoming, who is the 6th seed. Your 10 seed Waverly will play Shawnee, and 9 seed McNicholas will take a trip to face number 8 seed Eaton.
Now moving on to Division 4, Region 15, 16 seed. There was a tie for 15th, but Morgan out of McConnellsville, they took the tiebreaker, so they are the 15 seed. Carrollton, they are the 16 seed, and with that, Carrollton will be on the road against number 1 seeded Steubenville. Morgan, they will be the 15 seed. They will be on the road against Sheridan. Philo, the 14 seed, they will be on the road against Bishop Hartley. Indian Valley, they are the 13 seed. They will be on the road against Logan Elm. Jonathan Alder, they are the 12 seed. They will be on the road against Bishop Ready. Marion Franklin, they are the 11 seed. They will be on the road against St. Clairsville. Vinton County, they are the 10 seed. They will be on the road against Galila Academy. Licking Valley and Columbus East will be the last matchup. Columbus East, the home team in that game. And then the last few teams that were just on the outside, not quite making it in, Johnstown and Fairfield Union. They were both tied for 17th. And then you have Marysville out of Zanesville. They were the 19 seed.
Moving on to Region 14, your 16 seed, Vermilion will be taking a trip on the road to face Perkins from Sandusky. The 15 seed Lima Bath will be facing Cleveland Glenville. And Glenville, what a team that's been this season. They're the 2 seed in Region 14. Cleveland Central Catholic, the 14 seed, will take a trip to Shelby, who is the 3 seed. 13 seed Bryan will face off against West Holmes, who is the 4 seed. Oberlin Firelands, the 12 seed, will square off against Galeon, the 5 seed. River Valley, the 11 seed, will face Van Wert, who is the 6 seed. Napoleon, the 10 seed, they will face Bellevue, the 7 seed. And Wasan will take a trip to St. Mary's to face St. Mary's Memorial, who is the 8 seed. Your first couple of teams out for Region 14, Elyria Catholic, Clear Fork, and Upper Sandusky.
Now on to the last region that we will see in Division 4, 16 seed Canal Fulton Northwest. They will be on the road against Canton South. 15 seed Mogador Field, they will be on the road against Lake Catholic out of Mentor, Ohio. And then East Liverpool, they are the 14 seed. They will be on the road against Poland Seminary. Moving on now, Woodridge, I should say, the 13 seed. They will be on the road against West Branch. Beaver Local, they took the 12 seed. They will be on the road against Streetsboro. Garrard, they are the 11 seed. They will be on the road against Struthers. Edgewood out of Ashtabula, they are the 10 seed. They will be on the road against Niles McKinley. And then Bucktel, they are the 9 seed. They will be on the road against Cardinal Mooney out of Youngstown, those being the 8 versus 9 seed. The first few teams on the outside just missed out of the postseason. Very close missing out of the postseason. Holy Name, the 17 seed, they missed out by less than 0.04 points on the season. Holy Name was the first team out. Hubbard, they are the 19 seed. They also aren't in. Warrensville Heights, I should say, they were the 19th seed.
And how about Cleveland Glenville? Glenville, we talked about them a lot on this show last week. Glenville, what a season they had. And that was a very, very, very tough conference and very tough schedule that they ended up playing. The Tarblooders will look to go back-to-back for Division 4.
And yeah, that's one team that you really have to keep an eye out for no matter when you end up playing them in the postseason. This Glenville team, their 3 losses on the year might be, you might look at those and say, and they're a 3-loss team. They're not the most highly decked out team when it comes down to overall record that we're going to face this year. But this Tarblooders team, you take a look at their losses on the season. Avon, undefeated on the season. Avon 10-0. They lost that game by 8. And then they ended up losing to Archbishop Hoban. In Archbishop Hoban, a very, very, very good Division II team. Hoban went 8-1 on the season. Glenville lost that game 28-16. And then the one big game that doesn't go towards Glenville's points in the state of Ohio, but it's because this team isn't from Ohio, but it's one of the best teams in the entire country. Glenville took on IMG Academy out of Bradenton, Florida, lost that game 28-6. And if anybody knows about high school football at the highest level you're going to see in the country, you know that IMG Academy is one of the best schools in the entire country. They will travel anywhere to play football. They're from Florida. They've taken trips to California to play football games year in and year out. So this Tarblooders team, they took a trip on the road to IMG Academy, lost that game 28-6, but Glenville, 7-3 on the regular season. They are a team, though, really does have a shot at making it back-to-back state championships.
Yeah, Glenville, they played a very tough schedule, but another team you don't want to shy away from, they're in the same region, Region 14, as Cleveland Glenville. That's the Perkins Pirates. Perkins on the season, 9-0. What a tremendous season from the Pirates.
And yeah, you take a look at their schedule so far this season. There's a few teams on there that aren't that tough a competition. I mean, you've got Woodward, 0-10 on the season, but they won that game 81-0. Even the games against teams that aren't that good or didn't have that good of records on the season, it's just been pure dominance by the Pirates throughout the entirety of this season. The closest game they played this year was against Sandusky, who went 6-4 on the year. 31-14 was the final score of that game. Then moving on to some of the other games they played, Edison, who is a Division V school, but they're 9-1 on the season, won that game 49-14. You've also got Rocky River, who is a Division III school, 59-28 win in that one for this Pirates team. So you take a look at the schedule and you see that, yeah, Perkins played some lower division teams, but they also played against some higher division teams, and they were dominant any game they played so far this season.
And you know, that's one thing that great teams do, is great teams, even if it's not the toughest of schedules, they beat opponents how great teams should beat opponents, and that's exactly what Perkins did, it seemed like, all season long. And you have Perkins, who is the 1 seed when it comes to Region 14. You have Cleveland Glenville, who's the 2 seed, so it will be interesting to see what happens when those two teams, or if those two teams, square off. Matt, you take a look at Region 16, coming back down to the Southwest region. Clinton Massey, state champs 2 years ago. Last season, a bit of a down year, got knocked out by the Wyoming Cowboys in the playoffs. The Cowboys, of course, went to the state championship in Canton, but fell as the runners-up. Clinton Massey, perfect on the season, 10-0, and what a year for the Massey Falcons.
Yeah, especially after what seemed like a down year last year for this Clinton Massey team. They got knocked out in the postseason by Wyoming, who ended up making it all the way to the state championship game, where they lost to Glenville, the team we were just talking about coming out of the Cleveland area. So for Clinton Massey, the reason I say it was a down year last year was because the year prior, they started off the season 0-1 and then won the state championship game. So Clinton Massey 2 seasons ago, they were state champions. They had a little bit of a down year last year, but it seems like this year, Clinton Massey is back to doing Clinton Massey things. You talk about the points that the team was able to accumulate so far in this season. You've got Taft on the year, 21.23. You've got Alter, 21.0. Chillicothe Unioto, 22.3. Clinton Massey almost accumulated 36 points. That is almost a 13.6 point jump from the number 1 seed in Region 16 to the number 2 team in Region 16. That goes to show how good this Falcons team is, because talk about tough competition, you talk about playing against tough teams. The entire season, Clinton Massey, outside of 1 game, played against teams in divisions higher than them. They've got 2 games against Division III opponents. I believe it's 6 games against 6 games against Division III opponents. They had 1 game against Batavia, who was the same exact region as them, and obviously now they're going to have more games against Division IV opponents, but that's because it's postseason. The only team that was not a division higher or 2 than Clinton Massie was one of the best teams inside of at least Region 20, Waynesville, the Spartans of Waynesville, and they won that game 38-8. Waynesville, a team that has been on the inside and on the outside of being top 10 in the state for Division 5. So Clinton Massie has scheduled a very, very tough schedule this season, and it does not surprise me that this Falcons team is undefeated on the year and put up as big of a point gap to second place into the second-seeded team in Region 16 that they were able to do.
Upset alert. I'm calling this now. Region 16, 15-seed Urbana will take down Chillicothe Unioto this Friday night. What do you think?
Are you saying that because I said it last week?
No, I've been high on Urbana all year. I've been high on Urbana all year. That's going to be a tough matchup, and I'll stick by that. But the Urbana Hill Climbers, that is a team that has been overlooked coming out of a tough Central Buckeye Conference that has teams such as London, Bell Fountain, Jonathan Alder in it. Urbana, they're battle-tested. And when you look at the strength of schedule between Urbana and Chillicothe Unioto, that's a great team. That is a tremendous team. It's going to be a tough game for Urbana, but I've been high on the Urbana Hill Climbers all season long. I'm not going to stop now just because it's playoff. I think Hill Climbers pull that one out.
Because that was one thing that I talked about, at least when we were doing the Saturday show. I said Urbana could be that. We saw it last year with Little Miami taking down Xenia in the first round of Region 8. It would not surprise me if Urbana ends up being that team that pulls off the crazy upset in round 1 of this postseason. Just because you take a look, you talked about how battle-tested Urbana is and how tough of a schedule they've had so far this year. It's not that Chillicothe Unioto hasn't had that tough of a schedule, but when it comes down to consistent strength of schedule and consistently tough teams, Urbana's played against a tougher schedule than Chillicothe Unioto has this year. I'm not saying that that's the reason why Urbana's going to pull this upset out, but it's very possible that Urbana could pull the upset and could play spoiler in the first round of the postseason this year.
I've been high on Urbana all year long. I don't think I'm going to stop now. I think Urbana gets that upset. Time for a break. We'll be back. Division 3 coming up when we return.
Come on, guys, let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hi!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe, and I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hi!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe, and I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Hour number 2 of 3 coming up here on Sports Now. We welcome you back here alongside Matthew Pennington. I'm Jackson Lightcap. Moving into Division 3. Division 3, we'll start with Region 12. The 16 seed Goshen making the playoffs. Goshen, how about this? Winners of their last 2 games. This is a team that's at 1-7 on the season. Goshen, back-to-back big wins against Western Brown and Batavia, finds themselves in as the 16 seed, but tough task coming up for Goshen. They may be fed to the Wolves. They're going against Hamilton-Baden. 15 seed Western Brown will be taking a trip to Tippecanoe to face Tippecanoe and the Red Devils. The 14 seed Oakwood will be heading to Trotwood-Madison to face the Rams of Trotwood-Madison, who capture the 3 seed. Elida, the 13 seed, will take a trip to Butler, who is the 4 seed. New Richmond will play Wapakoneta, who is the 5 seed. 11 seed Hillsboro will play Salina, who's the 6 seed. Chaminade-Julienne takes a trip to Mount Healthy, who is the 7 seed. Chaminade-Julienne, that's a team that was just a home playoff team a couple weeks ago, but back-to-back losses to end their season absolutely derails the season. They're heading into the postseason with almost zero momentum at all. 9 seed Bellbrook will take a trip to Wilmington to face off against 8-seeded Wilmington High School.
Now moving on.
Sorry. First school's out. I was wondering why you were pausing.
Yeah, I was going to say.
First couple of schools out, Monroe, Tecumseh, Hughes.
You've missed out on that the past, I think, 2 segments now, because I've had that moment where I'm just like quiet, like, is he going to do it? Is he not going to do it? And then it's at the point where like, I'll just take it.
It's a
over.
habit. I'll get better at it.
And now moving on
by the time I get better at it, this show's going to be done. And
by the time you get used to it, we're going to be in Division 1, and there's going to be like one team out, like Beaver Creek in Region 2, and it's going to be like, well, there's like only one team.
Matt,
to bring
way to
up.
spoil our show now. Beaver Creek didn't make the playoffs. Spoiler alert.
Well, you
way
were
to
gonna
spoil it, Matt.
It was going to be found out one way or another. If somebody was if somebody watching would go to Joe Idle's website and look around, they'd be able to see that Beaver Creek didn't make it in. But moving on now to Division 3, Region 11, Columbus South. They took the 16 seed. They will be on the road against Bishop Watterson in the first round. Beechcroft out of Columbus. They will be on the road against a very, very good London squad. Bexley, they took the 14 seed. They will be on the road against Granville. London and Granville, the only undefeated teams in Region 11. Now moving on, Marietta, they took the 13 seed. They will be on the road against Jackson. Athens, out of the Plains, they will take the 12 seed. They will be on the road against Bloom Carroll, the team that made it to the state championship game a season ago. Buckeye Valley, they took the 11 seed. They will be on the road against Tri-Valley. 10 seed, John Glenn. They will be on the road against Bell Fountain. And then the last 2 teams that will face off against each other, the 8 versus 9 seed, Hamilton Township out of Columbus. They will take the home game against Miami Trace, who took the 9 seed. Now, the first few teams on the outside that did not make it in, all of these teams, when it comes down to the points that they accumulated, it was going to be tough for any of these teams to make it in. Almost a 3-point split between Columbus South and all of these teams. Whitehall Yearling, they were the 17 seed. Centennial, the 18 seed. And Chillicothe, they were the 19 seed.
Moving on now to Region 10. Division 3, Region 10, Bowling Green. They are the 16 seed. They will be playing off against Toledo Central Catholic, who is your number 1 seed. 15 seed Revere will take a trip to Norton to take on Norton High School. 14 seed Ashland will play Tiffin Columbian, who is the 3 seed. 13 seed Lexington takes a trip to Mansfield to play Mansfield Senior, who is your 4 seed. 12 seed Clyde will face Rocky River, who's your 5 seed. Lutheran West will play Ontario, who is the 6 seed. 10 seed Sandusky will play Buckeye from Medina. They're the 7 seed. And 9 seed Defiance will play Bay High School from Bay Village, who is the 8 seed. First few teams out for Region 10. We have Polta Franciscan. I hope I said that name. Franciscan. I don't even think I can pronounce that. Mommy and Cloverleaf.
Now moving on to the very last region in Division 3. It is Region 9. New Philadelphia, they took the 16 seed. They will be on the road against Ursuline, who is the 1 seed, the only undefeated team in this region. And the 15 seed, Hawken, they will be on the road against Geneva. That is a 2 seed versus 15. Alliance, they took the 14 seed. They will be on the road against Aurora. Dover, they took the 13 seed. They will be on the road against Kenston. University School out of Hunting Valley, they are the 12 seed. They will be on the road against Villa Angela St. Joseph. Madison out of Madison, Ohio, they took the 11 seed. They will be on the road against Gilmore Academy, who took the 6th seed. Cuyahoga Valley Christian Academy, they were the 10 seed. They will be on the road against Chardon. And then the last matchup we will see, surprising seeing the former state champions, Canfield and the Cardinals. They are the 9 seed. They will be on the road for the first round against Akron East, who took the 8 seed. There's a few more teams I want to bring up and talk about when it comes down to being on the outside and not making it in. It's just because of how competitive this region was. There were a lot of teams still in the fight for making it into the postseason, but they were just short of making it. Bedford, they were the 17 seed, only missed out by half a point. Talmadge, they were close. They just missed out. Cheney, they were close. They just missed out of the postseason. They were the 19 seed. Notre Dame, Cathedral, Latin, they were also very close to making it into the postseason, but fell just short.
When you take a look at Division III, they're stacked. Obviously, every single one of the divisions we've talked about on this show is stacked, but Division III stands out. And you know what's interesting about Division III? Division III, some of the top teams, they're all in different regions. Whereas, remember, in Division VII, the top 2 teams in the state of Ohio, Ansonia, Marion, Local, they were both in Region 28. In Division III, we have clear-cut favorites to come out and win their region, which is just going to make the state Final Four for Division III football so entertaining. You have, obviously, Toledo Central Catholic. They're the number 1 school in the state of Ohio when it comes to Division III football. What a season they've had. Followed closely behind by Hamilton Baden. So you have Toledo Central Catholic in Region 10. You have Baden in Region 12. And then you go down the list. You have Youngstown Ursuline. They right now, I believe, are in Region 9. Yes, they are. They're in Region 9. And even if you continue down that list, you have London, who's the sixth number ranked team in the state of Ohio when it comes to football. And they right now sit in Region, I had it for a second. They sit right now in Region 11 with Bishop Watterson. And Bishop Watterson is the number 4 team in the state of Ohio. So that's just entertaining. The top 4 teams you have in the state of Ohio when it comes to Division III football all sit in different regions. So there are clear-cut favorites to come out of the region. And then you go down the list. Obviously, we talked about London. You have Norton. You have Chagrin Falls, Kenston. You have Geneva. You have Aurora, Granville, Trotwood, Madison. They all have a chance there to round out the top 10. Actually, 11, because Trotwood, Madison, and Granville, they're tied for that 10 spot. But what's different about Division III is that it's still super competitive like we've seen the previous divisions, but what makes it more competitive is that a lot of these matchups we won't see in the regionals. We won't see in the districts. We're going to see it when it comes to the state Final Four and the state championship. Division III, come late November, early December, is going to be a treat.
And yeah, that's one thing that you also have to take a look at when it comes to Division III. You talk about the state rankings in the final AP poll for the regular season. There, you can count, I'm going to count Trotwood in, so there's technically 11 teams fighting for 10 spots, but Trotwood and Granville are tied for that 10 spot when it comes to the votes and everything. Of those 11 teams, there is 6 total losses on the season for those 11 teams. Toledo Central Catholic, 10-0. Baden, 10-0. Ursuline out of Youngstown, 10-0. Columbus Watterson, 9-1. They're the first one-loss team. Norton, London, both of those teams undefeated on the year. Kenston out of Chagrin Falls, they lost 1 game. Geneva lost 1 game. Aurora lost 1 game. Granville, they're ranked 10th, 10-0 on the season. Trotwood tied with Granville, 8-2 on the season. You want to talk about a tough division to play in, and what is more than likely going to be a very competitive division all the way through, even to the state championship game. Division III is going to be a dogfight when it comes to who is going to be hoisting the state championship trophy at the end of the postseason, because there are a ton, and I mean a ton, of tough, good, competitive teams in Division III for this season.
Division III, even just years prior to this season, has been one of, if not the most competitive divisions when it comes to high school football. I mean, remember last season, Baden was, I believe they were ranked number 2 in the state of Ohio heading into the postseason final AP poll. Don't quote me on that. But then they lost to Wapakoneta. Or I beg your pardon, they lost to Tip City. They were just able to edge out to Wapakoneta, and then they ended up going and losing to Tip City, who went to the Final Four. Division III, when it comes to football in the state of Ohio, is legit. We're going to have a treat down the stretch. Time for a break. D2 and D1 coming up when we're back.
Come on, guys, let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hi!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe, and I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Come on, guys, let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hi!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe, and I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington. We welcome you here to Sports Now. Moving into Division II, we are talking all 28 regions. And Matt, we're making record time as well. That's exactly where we want to be. Going on to Region 2, or I beg your pardon, Division II, Region 8, starting off with Region 8. The number 16 seed Cincinnati Turpin will take the 16 seed. They're hit the road and face a familiar face, the Anderson Raptors, who claim the 1 seed. 15 seed Stebbins will face Troy, who is the 2 seed. 14 seed Edgewood against Withrow, who's the 3 seed. Fairborn makes it into the playoffs. How about this? Fairborn, their first postseason appearance outside of the COVID year, because every single team in the state of Ohio made it the COVID year. Outside of the COVID year, this is the first postseason appearance for the Fairborn Skyhawks in over 20 years, if you take out the COVID year. So congratulations to Fairborn Skyhawks. Tough task ahead of you, though. You will be taking on Clayton Northmont and the Thunderbolts. The 12 seed Sydney will face off against Harrison, who's the 5 seed. Cincinnati LaSalle, the 11 seed, will be playing Winton Woods, who's the 6 seed. Xenia, the 10 seed, they will be facing Lima Senior, who's the 7 seed. 9 seed Kings, 8 seed Loveland. And the first few teams that are out, Ross Piqua, Talawanda.
Now
you did it again. Thank you, Matt. Thanks for the reminder.
Now moving on to Division II, Region 7. In the first round of the postseason, we will see 16-seeded Central Crossing. They will be on the road against probably one of the best teams in the entire state of Ohio, Massillon, Washington, and the Tigers. That is going to be a very tough first round for Central Crossing. Moving on, though, Walnut Ridge, they took the 15 seed. They will be on the road against Canal Winchester. And then St. Charles, I should say, the 14 seed, they will be on the road against Uniontown Green. The reason I said Perry is because that's the next team on the list, 13 seeded Perry. They will be on the road against Uniontown Lake. Now, 12 seed, Big Walnut, they will be on the road against Northland. Continuing on, Hoover, they took the 11 seed. They will be on the road against St. Francis de Sales. Watkins Memorial, they took the 10 seed. There was a tie for 7th between Independence and Briggs, but Independence, they took the tiebreaker over Briggs. So Independence will be the 7 seed, and they will have a home game against Watkins Memorial. And then Briggs, who tied with Independence when it came to points accumulated, facing off against a team that was close to tying both of those two teams. Westerville South took the 9 seed, and they were only back by 0.05 points to Briggs. So that should be a very, very good 8 versus 9 seeded game. Now the teams that just missed out of the postseason, Wheatstone, they were the 17 seed, Logan, the 18 seed, and Tees Valley, they were the 19 seed.
On to Region 6 for Division 2. St. John's Jesuits, they're the 16 seed. Their face Avon, who will be the 1 seed. I forgot how to pronounce that name. Shame on me. I'm sorry.
Have fun. You've got another Avon team coming up later on in the bracket that you've got to talk about.
We talked about this at the break, but then I blanked. I'm sorry. It's Avon. So
it's like trying to pronounce Tuscarawas Valley. I'm not looking at it.
I know how to say it. I promise everyone out there, I know how to say it. I looked at it, and then I was like, wait a second. Why am I blanking again?
No, like with Tuscarawas Valley, I'm not looking at it right now, but when I was reading it off, I feel like I'm butchered it when I said it.
It's easy to say when you're just
talking,
looking at it.
Yeah, you're like, it's
when
Tuscarawas
you're bouncing
Valley.
around, it's
Tuscawaros.
So let's move on. St. John's Jesuit will face Avon, who is your 1 seed. 15 seed Toledo Start will be facing off against Anthony Wayne, who's the 2 seed. Midview, the 14 seed, will take a trip to Medina to face off against Highland, who is the 3 seed. Rhodes from Cleveland, the 13 seed, will play Sylvania Southview, who's the 4 seed. Valley Forge, the 11 seed, will face Olmsted Falls. They're the 5 seed. Vermont Ross, the 10th seed, they will be facing off against Avon Lake, the 7 seed. Brecksville Broadview Heights, they're the 9 seed. They'll be going up against Westlake, the 8th seed. And the first couple of teams out, Lakewood, Amherst Steel, and Sylvania Northview.
Now moving on to the very last region you'll see in Division 2. It is Region 5. In the first round of the postseason, we'll see Ellett. They took the 16 seed. They will be on the road against a very, very good Archbishop Hoban squad who took the 1 seed. Firestone, they took the 15 seed. They will be on the road against Walsh Jesuit. Benedictine, they took the 14 seed. They will be on the road against Hudson. Maple Heights, they took the 13 seed. They will be on the road against Riverside out of Paynesville. Then you've got Twinsburg. They were the 12 seed. They will be on the road against Nordonia. Then Warren G. Harding, they took the 11 seed. They will be on the road against a very tough Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's team. Austintown Fitch, they took the 10 seed. They will be on the road against John Hay. And then the 8 versus 9 seed, 8-seeded Barberton, they will host Shaker Heights as the last matchup in the first round of the postseason. First few teams on the outside that just missed out on the playoffs, you have 17-seed Lakeside out of Ashtabula. Garfield Heights, they just missed out as well. They were the 18 seed. And Mayfield, they were also just outside, missing the postseason. They were the 19 seed.
And yeah, I mean, when it comes to Division II football, Division II, obviously very competitive, but we have to show some love to Massillon, Washington.
Yeah, this Tigers team, I mean, we were talking a little bit about them last week, but you just take a look at the teams that they've played so far this season. Valdosta out of Georgia, that team 7-2, won it 28-17. They've played almost as many teams out of the state as they have teams in state, and it's just been dominance pretty much all season by this Tigers team. The closest game they played was a win, but it was against St. Ed's, the number 1 team in Division I. and Massillon, Washington took them down 15-13. That was the closest game they played all season long, and it was a win against the number 1 team in Division 1. So this Tigers team, especially when it comes down to chances of making a deep postseason run, this Tigers team has to be on your list for Division 2 for potential favorites for the state title at the end of the season. But just in general, making it deep into the postseason, I think you have to have the Tigers on your radar to be a team to make it very, very far in the postseason this year.
And Matt, we talked to TJ Downing from Stark Media. He runs media up in Stark County, where Massillon, Washington, and the Tigers are from. But Matt, we talked about it to TJ, and he said that he feels that this is the season for the Tigers to get up over that hump. Remember, Massillon, Washington, they've been in that hunt each and every year, but they just have not been able to capitalize. And it seems like this is a year that they would be able to take advantage of it. Obviously, a lot harder said than done, because you look at Division 2 and you have Avon, who's the number 2 in the state of Ohio. They're also in that same region as Massillon, Washington. You always have Akron-Hoban, Archbishop Hoban into the mix. They're the number 3 seed in Division 2 in the state of Ohio. And if you were to tell me that Hoban would be the number 3 team at the end of the year for Division 2 football in the state of Ohio, I don't think I would have believed you. Yes, that's still high seeding, but this is a Archbishop Hoban team that we are very used of seeing number 1, number 2 in the state, not as low as number 3, but they're still Hoban. Hoban's such a tremendous team. We talk about some of the local teams here in Southwest Ohio, at least local for you and I, Matt. You have Cincinnati Anderson, who's the 4 seed. Their catch is defense. Their defense, very subpar this season, coming out of an offensive caliber league and an offensive caliber conference, the Eastern Cincinnati Conference. We're waiting to see what Cincinnati Anderson can do. That offense is going to roll. That defense may hurt. But then, of course, you have Withrow coming out of the Cincinnati Metro Athletic Conference. That's a great team led by quarterback Blake Dunn, former transfer from the Moeller Crusaders to the Withrow Tigers. They have Chris Henry Jr. on that team. Division 2 is a very competitive division, but it seems like the stars are aligning for Massillon, Washington. If they can evade and avoid Avon here in their own region within the regional finals, or if they can take them down, all signs ahead for Massillon, Washington finally getting to Canton and taking home the state championship. I will also say this, Massillon, Washington, we talked about the schedule that they played, taking down St. Edwards. They're going to have a lot of momentum heading into the postseason because they just took down their rivals, Canton-McKinley, 35-0. 35-0 against their biggest rivals, Canton-McKinley. That is a big rivalry game, and it's not like Canton-McKinley are some scrubs either. They're 7-3. That's one of the top teams in the state of Ohio as well.
And yeah, actually, Avon is Region 6. Massillon, Washington is Region 7.
You're right. My bad. My apologies.
But still, Canal Winchester is the number 2 team when it comes to, you take a look at, they're the number 2 team.
That's who I was thinking in my mind. My bad, everyone.
They're the second seeded team in Region 7, but they're also the number 7 team in the state of Ohio for Division 2. So Massillon, Washington, all signs are pointing towards this being their season. But you also have to keep into account the teams that they're probably going to have to face off against to either try to win the state championship or be in contention for the state championship. You have Avon, undefeated on the season, a dominant season for that team. You also have Hoban, who has been the thorn in Massillon, Washington's side the past few seasons. I was able to take a look at the highlights from that game last year between Massillon, Washington and Hoban. It was pretty much back and forth until Hoban started to close the game out towards the later stages of the game. And then you've got Region 8. To be honest, when it comes to Region 8, there's so much that can happen in this region. There's so many different teams that right now I would say have a chance at representing Region 8. Obviously, you've got Anderson. I could see them representing Region 8. Troy, I could see them doing it too. Withrow, I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibilities to see the Tigers of Withrow be the team coming out of Region 8. I don't think you can put Winton Woods' defense out of the equation. If the offense can get things going, Winton Woods is a team that could represent Region 8. I think Northmont, jumping from Division 1 last year to Division 2 this year, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities for that Thunderbolts team to potentially be the team coming out of Region 8. But when it comes down to it, I just get the feeling that with how good Massillon has been this season, obviously there's chances at upsets. We've seen crazy things happen. We saw undefeated Xenia last year as the 2 seed get knocked out by Little Miami in overtime in the first round. So anything is possible, but you just get the feeling that Massillon this season, you get the feeling that it's their year to be state champions.
Time for a break. Division 1 coming up next.
It's easy to take the air in your home for granted. But it's not just about being hot or cold. It's about having clean air. For some of us, this is critical. At McAfee, we'll provide you with long-term solutions to improve the air you breathe.
Do you need your inhaler, bud? Oh, I'm good, thanks.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down. Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir. I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Our final division to talk about. Matt, we are making world record time.
You just like saying that it's world record time, huh?
It's not even official that it's a world record. It's
That's
just
why-
something it's just something to say to make it interesting.
Spicing it up a little
We
bit.
need to
I
have
see.
the Guinness Book of World Records, one of their personnel come in and see how fast we could talk about it. We may, for all we know, be the only ones that are going for that official record. So, I mean, hey, put the show in another book, I guess.
And I'll try to, you talk about going for the world record, I'll do it by myself and have Guinness watch and see if I can't beat your record that you read
Okay,
through
then
last
I'll
week.
do the same, and then it just comes down to who talks faster.
It's going to be competitive. It's going to be back and forth battling for who sets the world record between the two of us.
Oh boy, moving on. They can come. You can run the show 1 week. I'll run it the next week, and we'll move on. But obviously now that's not really going to, we'll have to wait till next year because it's just going to get easier and easier and easier each and every week to do it in shorter time because teams are going to be cut down in half each and every week now across the state of Ohio. Moving on, Region 4 when it comes to Division 1. Division 1, Region 4, the 16th seed. We will see Fairfield. They will go on and take on Milford on the road. 15 seed Middletown. They will play undefeated Princeton. Princeton, their first undefeated season since the early 1990s. I believe it was 1993. That was their last official undefeated season. They're coming off their first outright GMC title since 2003. So the Princeton Vikings, they're your 2 seed. 14 seed Western Hills will take a trip to Lakota West. Lakota West on an 8-game winning streak, finishing the season 8-2. They're the number 3 seed. The 12 seed West Clermont, they will be going up, I beg your pardon, the 13 seed Springboro. They will be going up against St. Xavier on the road. 12 seed West Clermont, they'll be facing off against Archbishop Moeller. The 11 seed Oak Hills will go up against Elder, who is the 6 seed. Sycamore will face Hamilton, who's the 7 seed. And Mason will take on Lebanon. That is your 9 versus 8 seed. And the first few teams out for Region 4, Lakota East, Coleraine, and Walnut Hills.
And now moving on to Division 1, Region 3, Reynoldsburg, they took the 16 seed. They will be on the road against a really, really, really good Gahanna Lincoln squad. Talking about great squads. Gahanna Lincoln versus Pickerington North last week. That was by far probably the game of the entire week / the best game in the entire state of Ohio last week. So Gahanna Lincoln, deserving of that number 1 seed. But now moving on, Newark, they are the 15 seed. They will take on Hilliard Bradley in the first round of the postseason. Westerville Central, they are the 14 seed. They will face off against that Pickerington North squad I just mentioned previously. They took the 3 seed. Thomas Worthington, they are the 13 seed. They will be on the road against Upper Arlington. New Albany, they took the 12 seed. They will be on the road against Pickerington Central. Then you have Groveport Madison. They took the 11 seed. They will be on the road against Hilliard Darby. Lancaster, they took the 10 seed. They will be on the road against Westerville North. And the final matchup we will see in this region, we will see Grove City take the trip to Hilliard Davidson for the 8 seed versus the 9 seed. The only team to not make it into the postseason out of Region 3 was Westland.
Moving on to Region 2, when it comes to Division 1, your 16 seed Dublin Jerome. Remember, they were the 1 seed last season for Region 2. Well, they're now the number 16 seed. They still make it to the playoffs. They'll be going up against Olentangy in round 1. 15 seed Marysville, they will be going up against Olentangy Berlin, who's the 2 seed. The number 14 seed Olentangy Liberty, they will take a trip to Findlay to face the number 3 seeded Findlay High School. Moving on up our list, Olentangy Orange will take a trip to Centerville to take on the Elks of Centerville. They're the 4 seed. Springfield, who was the number 2 team in Region 2 a season ago, making appearances in back-to-back state championships as well, both times losing to St. Edwards. They're the 12 seed, limping into the playoffs. A lot of injuries have derailed their season. They will be going up against their big rivals, the Wayne Warriors. What a matchup that was way back in Week 4. They're going to be going at it once again, this time in the postseason. Kettering Fairmont and the Firebirds will take a trip to face the Shamrocks from Dublin Kaufman. They're the 6 seed. Perrysburg, the 10 seed. They will face Toledo Whitmer, the 7 seed. Miamisburg Vikings, they will take a trip to face Delaware Hayes, who is the 8 seed, the only team to not make it in Region 2. Matt, you mentioned this earlier in the show, so it's not a spoil. He already spoiled it. It's Beaver Creek. 17 seed, they are the first one out.
Now moving on to the very last region we are going to talk about. It's the last region outside of just breaking down regions that we've got to run through. Jackson, we're at the final leg of the sprint right now, or the final leg of the race.
You're delaying our world record time.
It's already faster than last week, so you don't get. It's not delaying it too much. Elaria, they are the 16 seed. They will be on the road against St. Ed's. Moving on now, 15 seed belongs to Euclid. They will be on the road against Cleveland Heights. Brunswick, they took the 14 seed. They will be on the road against Wadsworth. Strongsville, they are the 13 seed. They will be on the road against Canton McKinley. St. Ignatius, they were able to make it into the postseason. They are the 12 seed. They will be on the road against Mentor. John Marshall, they took the 11 seed. They will be on the road against Medina. Jackson, they took the 10 seed. They will be on the road against Beret Mid-Park. And then the very last matchup we will see Lorraine as the 9 seed take a trip to Glen Oak. The 2 teams on the outside that didn't make it into the postseason this year, Normandy, they were the 17 seed, and then Stow, Monroe Falls, they were the 18 seed.
Matt, going back to Region 2, a couple of teams I want to talk about real quick before we head to break in a few minutes. 2 teams I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about the Kettering Fairmont Firebirds. They are the 11 seed. They play in a tough GWAC conference. I love Dublin Kaufman. I love what the Shamrocks bring to the table. Matt, you and I were able to see them way back in Week 2 of the regular season. Dublin Kaufman is a great football team, But if there's something that Fairmont has, they come prepared. They run the triple option. They come prepared, especially against teams that they don't face regularly. I think that that's going to be an upset. Call me crazy. I think the Fairmont Firebirds will take down Dublin Kaufman. I don't know why. It's just a gut feeling. But take a look in recent history. Obviously, all the teams that Fairmont matches up with down here in the Southwest region, including the Greater Western Ohio Conference, they know that they run the triple option. The coaching staff on the other side, they will load the box, and then they also have ideas where Fairmont's going to go with that play action and try to beat them deep. You take Fairmont and put them outside of the Dayton and Cincinnati region. We saw it happen a couple years ago against Perrysburg. Now, I understand it's not the same team. Fairmont, really, there's no team from that Perrysburg victory that's on the Fairmont Firebirds right now as we speak, but it's the whole offensive scheme. It's the scheme. The defense, they're going to fly around, they're going to make plays, but the offense, when they go play teams outside of the Dayton-Cincinnati market and Dayton-Cincinnati region, they have a one-up because they don't face these teams. I think that gives Fairmont a little bit of an advantage. I think Fairmont pulls the upset against Dublin Kaufman and turn the page. You talk about the Centerville Elks, Matt. We saw them multiple times this season. We saw them last week against Wayne. That is a team that, yes, they're the 4 seed. Yes, they're 8-2. Yes, they're ranked the number 10 team when it comes to Division I football in the state of Ohio. That's a team that could be on upset alert if it's not this week, next week, because Centerville, that defense is great, led by Reggie Powers, 4-star safety recruit. But Centerville, that offense, no offensive identity through 10 weeks of the season. They struggled last week. Turnovers have plagued them. When that defense for Centerville does not play good, Centerville's in trouble. Not having an offensive identity heading into week 11, that worries me for the Elks.
And yeah, I would love to agree with you in the fact that Fairmont could be that team that plays upset alert and puts Dublin Kaufman on upset alert this week. I really would love to believe that to be very, very... I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think it's going to be tough for this Fairmont team to do that, just for the main reason that you take a look at Dublin Kaufman. Their last win of the season is against Hilliard Bradley. The only loss that Hilliard Bradley suffered all season long came last week to this Shamrocks team, especially after a loss to Upper Arlington in week 9. This Shamrocks team is now carrying some momentum in the postseason after that 14-7 win in week 10. And it's not that Fairmont isn't carrying momentum either because they took down Beaver Creek in the final week of the season, but you take a look at the wins that Fairmont has on the year. The game against Alter, Fairmont was in control for a majority of that game, but Alter was clawing their way back, and Alter just came up short. They lost that game. Fairmont won 24-21. The game against Northmont, if Northmont just holds on in that fourth quarter, that's a loss for Fairmont. They were down 14-0 going into that fourth quarter, and they only clawed it back to send it to OT and then ended up winning in overtime. Northmont makes one more stop. Fairmont's not winning that football game. Good win against Springboro, 17-7. Close win against Springfield, but Springfield, it's obvious they're not the Springfield of years past. Fairmont won that game 10-7. I'd love to see this Fairmont Firebirds team pull the upset in the first round of the postseason, but if it wasn't Dublin Kaufman, I could see it being possible, but this Shamrocks team has just looked good so far this season. Obviously, with the fact that you and I both went to Fairmont, I'd love to see the Fairmont Firebirds pull off an upset against Dublin Kaufman. I just think it's going to be a little bit too tall of a hill for Fairmont to climb. It's not that it's not possible. It's just going to be really tough.
And, I'm not saying Fairmont's going to win because just as you pointed out, yeah, we went to Fairmont. I'm not saying that to be biased by any means. Fairmont, when they get into the playoffs and when they play teams such as Columbus and Toledo, in years past, has looked very, very good. And it's because, again, the teams in Cincinnati, Dayton, who play them multiple times, who know what head coach Dave Miller runs, they know how to defend it. It's tough to defend an offense that you don't typically see. That's why Fairmont runs it, and that's why they're so effective in the postseason. And Matt, I love Dublin Kaufman. Dublin Kaufman is a tremendous team. You're right. They just did take down Hilliard Bradley. But Dublin Kaufman at points this season, what did they struggle defending? The run. That's all Fairmont does. And then The moment Dublin Kaufman will bring those safeties up into the box, that's where Fairmont and Brock Baker will hit them over the top. I just like the advantage that Fairmont has heading into this game. Yes, they're on the road. Yes, they're going up against Dublin Kaufman, who is one of the top teams in the state of Ohio. Just took down Hilliard Bradley, who's ranked 6th in the state of Ohio for Division I. In fact, they were higher than that heading into Week 10. So I got a gut feeling. I think Fairmont pulls it. I think they're going to have the advantage because this is an offense that Dublin Kaufman does not typically see. And I think Dublin Kaufman struggled at points this season stopping the run. The difference maker in this one is going to be, can Fairmont control the clock, turnover differential, and also not just that, can Fairmont's defense step up and come to play just like we've seen them do many times this season?
Like I said, I do see it possible that Fairmont could play spoiler and could end up taking down Dublin Kaufman, but I just think it's going to be tough. And another game that I want to talk about, and it's not just because it's the game that you and I are going to this upcoming Friday, but Lebanon versus Mason.
It's going to be a great game.
In the first round. The only way I see it not being a close game is if Mason's defense doesn't come to play. If the Comets' defense comes to play, it is going to be a dogfight between 8 versus 9 in Region 4. If Mason's defense decides for some reason it's the first round of the postseason, we're going to take the night off, Lebanon is going to torch the Comets. But it's a tale of two possibilities. Mason's defense shows up, it's going to be a good football game. If Mason's defense decides to take the night off, which I don't know why they would, it's the postseason, you shouldn't be taking any nights off, Lebanon is going to have their way with this Mason team.
And, we talked about Cincinnati Anderson and the Raptors. They come out of the ECC, a conference where defense really is non-existent. And the way I like to compare the Eastern Cincinnati Conference, I like to compare them to the Big 12. A lot of offense, not a whole lot of defense. So you have an offensive powerhouse in the Lebanon Warriors squaring off against a defensive powerhouse in the Mason Comets. That's going to make for the matchup because Mason's offense, Matt, you made the comparison a few days ago off air. Mason, you could compare them to someone like Iowa. Great defense always, struggling offense. But then you turn the page, you look at Lebanon, great offense, not too great of a defense. So the question in this game is going to be who steps up and what gives. It's going to be a tremendous game. Make sure to watch that game on the NFHS network. Matt and I will have the call.
And yeah, you talk about the ECC reminding you of the Big 12, then Whitten Woods better find their way outside of the ECC because
that is true. They're the one exception.
They're the one exception inside the ECC where it's not offensive explosion, and that is our identity. Whitten Woods' identity is defense, and they've got a really good defense at that.
They are the one exception. We're giving them credit. They are the one exception.
Everyone else is exactly like you said. It's like the Big 12. If Whitten Woods wasn't in there, I would say the ECC is the Big 12 of the state of Ohio when it comes to high school football, but Whitten Woods sneaks their way in there like, hey, I know how to play defense, but I think I'm the only one in the conference that knows how to play defense. So
and that's
Whitten Woods is that one exception. And that's another reason why I said Whitten Woods. They're the 6th seed in their region in Region 8. That's why I'm saying that Whitten Woods could very well be a team that represents Region 8 because they've got a championship level defense.
Defense wins championships. We're come back. We've already gone through all 28 regions, but when we return, we will talk about sleeper teams and upset games we think will happen in Week 11. That's coming up next on Sports Now.
At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down. Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir. I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down. Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir, I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down. Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir, I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Final segment of hour number 2. We still have one more hour with us, and as it stands right now, we have a couple of great guests coming up as well. TJ Downing expected to call in at 6, and we are going to try to get George Howard on the phone at 6:30. Alongside Matthew Pennington, I'm Jackson Lightcap, and moving in and talking about, out of all 28 regions, Week 11 for football, what are some upsets, who are some sleeper teams, and why?
I'm not saying this because you brought it up first on the show. I'm saying it because I brought it up last week. I'm looking at this Urbana team against Chillicothe Unioto. You take a look at the prediction for that game. Chillicothe, as the home team, is projected to win by 2 points. And if you know, when it comes to odds, home teams are usually given roughly a 3-point buffer because they're the home team. So that means if it was a neutral site game between Urbana and Chillicothe Unioto, a 15 versus a 2, Urbana would be favored by 1 point in that game. I'm not saying that you have to go off of what's projected and what's predicted for this game to put your final thoughts in. Maybe Urbana wins or maybe Chillicothe wins. But just with the fact that you talk about the tough schedule that Urbana has put together so far this year, they've faced off against some really tough teams. Granted, some of those games, they didn't play that close against those tough teams, but they've still played against very, very, very good competition so far this year. And for Urbana, they've got 2 games on their schedule. North Union is a Division 5 school. Fort Recovery, a Division 7 school. Outside of that, Urbana has been playing against Division 2, Division 3, and Division 4 opponents so far this year. You take a look at the later half of their schedule. They played against Bell Fountain. That's a Division 3 school. They did lose that game pretty heavily, but it was a very good Bell Fountain squad who's 8-2 on the year. They lost that game 44-14. And then they faced off against another Division 3 team. Granted, Tecumseh didn't have the greatest of seasons, but 69-7 was the final score of that game for Urbana. And then the final game, 49-7 was the final score of that game. But when you hear that it was London they played against in that last week, it kind of makes sense that it was a 42-point loss because London has been destroying teams all season long. Another team that Urbana lost to, Jonathan Alder, Jonathan Alder on the season, 7-3 as well. They lost that game by a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. They lost 41-33, but this Urbana team has played against some pretty tough competition, and it's not to say that Chillicothe Unioto hasn't played against tough competition. They've played against some pretty good competition, but they've also played close, really close, against those tougher competition. Vinton County, they won that game 21-20 was the final score of that game. Vinton County 9-1 on the season. But the one game that stands out to me is Chillicothe's loss to Waverly, 28-14. Granted, that was a week 3 game. Granted, it's a little bit different now what Chillicothe brings to the table as opposed to what they brought to the table in week 3. But Waverly is in Region 16, and they're the 10 seed. I'm not saying that that also needs to be your, oh, they lost to the 10 seed. Yeah, Urbana's going to win this football game. That can't really be your main reasoning behind it, but you just take a look at the level of competition that Urbana has lost to this year, and the fact that Chillicothe, their loss on the season is to Waverly, who is the 10 seed in this region. It's just adding up, and it's just spicing up to potentially be a 15-2 upset like we saw Little Miami do to Xenia last year.
Yeah, Matt, I completely agree. I think Urbana, we've been high on the Hill Climbers all season long. I think Urbana, that's a game that they ultimately can pull out against Chillicothe Unioto. A couple other games I want to talk about. I know in our last segment I mentioned Kettering Fairmont Firebirds. I do think that they take down Dublin Kaufman and the Shamrocks this upcoming week. I think the matchup's just in favor of Fairmont. Another team I want to talk about, and we go to Division I, Region 1. It's Jackson and the Polar Bears from Massillon, Ohio. That is a sleeper team because they are entering the postseason as a 10 seed. But you take a look at their schedule. They've played a very tough schedule this season.
And yeah, you take a look at the losses that they have on the season. They're against some pretty tough competition, and they've even got some wins against some pretty tough competition as well. So this Polar Bear squad, I mean, you take a look, the biggest loss they had on the year was to Canton McKinley. They lost that game 27-7, but that's the biggest loss they've suffered all season. 19-7 was another loss they had. They lost a game 21-6, 26-21, 27-14. This Polar Bears team has played some pretty tough competition all the way through. They've even got some wins against teams above 500 as well on the season. So this Polar Bears team has played against some pretty tough competition, but they've also got a pretty tough first round as well against Bray Mid-Park and the Titans, because that Titans team has also played some pretty tough competition as well, and they're sitting at 6-4 on the year.
Matt, I'll also say this, St. Ignatius, a terrible season to their standards, 2-8 this year, but they do take on Mentor, and Mentor, that's a good football team, but it wouldn't surprise me to see St. Ignatius pull this one out.
The only reason I would say it's going to be tougher for St. Ignatius to pull this one out is because they have already beaten Mentor this season. 16-14 in week 2 was the final score of that game. And we've talked about it, I don't know how many times, but it's really never wrong when we talk about it, the amount of times that we do. It is tough to beat a team twice in the same season in football. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that St. Ignatius can take down Mentor, but I wouldn't say it's trending more towards them not being able to do it, but the one thing that St. Ignatius, you've got to look at for this Wildcats team, their worst opponents are 500 on the entire season. Springfield 5-5, and then Football North out of Ontario, Canada, 3-3 on the season. Everybody outside of that is 500 or better on the season for this St. Ignatius team. Some of them undefeated, TCC being that team, Central Catholic out of Toledo. But when it comes down to it, I do not see it being impossible for this Wildcats team to pull that upset against Mentor. Not just because they've already done it once this season, and you never know, they could do it twice. They've already beat Mentor once. They're probably going to be able to do it again. It's very possible. It's just the strength of schedule that the Wildcats have found themselves playing against so far this season. It's probably one of the toughest schedules you're going to see from any team inside of the state of Ohio. I say that, but then you take a look at like Massillon, Washington's schedule, and you're like, man, St. Ignatius has an easy schedule compared to what Massillon, Washington's put together so far this year. But when it comes to Division I, when it comes to potential upsets, I do think it's completely possible for St. Ignatius to pull one off this week.
Time for a break. When we return, we will be joined with TJ Downing from Stark Media. That's all coming up next here on Sports Now.
At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down. Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir, I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down. Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir, I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We welcome you back here to Sports Now, and we welcome in our guest for today. It is TJ Downing. TJ, can you hear us?
What's going on, guys? How we doing?
Doing absolutely wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm actually down here in Disneyland right now. I'm a first-timer. I got my daughter down here. I just left the Magic Kingdom, and I got a chance to listen into your guys' magic, which breaking down all of those regions, man. I know it's not easy, but I'll tell you what, you guys do a hell of a job, man.
How about this? A new world record. Last week, we did it in 2.5 hours. This week, we did it in 1 hour and 45 minutes, so that's got to be a new record. But, TJ, some unfortunate news. Matt, unfortunately, will not be able to stay with us the final hour. Some health issues has occurred, so personal, I'll let him settle that on the show next on Saturday when he comes back. But so it's just going to be you and I for the next 30 minutes.
Nothing wrong with that, man. I'll tell you what, rocking with Jackson Lightcap, man, it's my honor. It's a privilege.
No, it's our privilege to have you here on the TKDS Sports Network, a great partnership, TKDS and Stark Media, and it's nice to have somebody fill in because my partner ditched me. In fact, he's still in the room right now, and he just shot me a glare while doing that.
If you've ever been that guy looking for a date last minute to homecoming, man, sometimes you get ditched, but I'll tell you what, I'm your backup option for tonight, so I'll be plan B any day of the week for you, man.
So, TJ, of course, round one of the OHSA playoffs happening this upcoming week. Hard to believe we're already in week 11. And I know that you have a couple of games circled on your calendar and a couple of games that you want to take a look at and a couple of games that you think we'll see some upsets.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I guess really in round one, the first thing you have to do is look at the 9-8 matchups, because those are going to be a little bit tighter than what the 1-16s will be. I mean, you're going to have a ton of running clocks from the 2 to 15 seeds, even the 3 14s and the 1 and the 16s. Some of those are what we call sending the lamb to slaughter, so to say. So I think the 9-8s are really where you see a lot of those good matchups. I know one that I'm kind of keeping my eye on is in Division I, Region 1, which I heard you guys just talking about, and that's I'll give it the capital M, why my Glen Oak Golden Eagles, who I was fortunate enough about 4 or 5 weeks ago to get inducted to their the Golden Eagle Athletic Hall of Fame when they played Hoover, and they were able to get a win. And I will tell you this, Jackson, that was right around when the season turned around for Glen Oak, because they came out the blocks and they would take on Cincinnati Western Hills, get a win, and then it was on to the Massillon Tigers, and it was a 50-some point blowout. But this Glen Oak team has gotten a lot better. They're going to take on a really tough Lorraine team. And a couple guys to keep your eye on for the Glen Oak Golden Eagles, the Burke brothers, the one that they call Avante, who comes out of the backfield, and then his brother, who they call Milk. That's Adrian Burt. And Adrian plays quarterback. These two are dynamic. There's a really great tight end on this Glen Oak team, and that's Austin Morrison. He was the one who was able to catch the game winner when they beat the McKinley Bulldogs just 2 weeks ago. So that was a big win for the Golden Eagles, and they've kind of ramped up. And they have kind of hit their stride here as we got towards the end of the season. When we talk about guys peaking at the right time, I think the Golden Eagles are peaking. Now, on the backside of that, whoever wins that game most likely will have St. Edward, which at that point, whether you're peaking or not, becomes a tall, tall task with that crew. I mean, you're talking about Tom Lombardo and everything he's done here, multiple state championships, defending state champions in Division I. And for anybody that has to go up and face them, they know that they're going to be going against a huge offensive line. I know that they're the favorite. I heard you guys talking about Ignatius. They're in at, can you believe it, 1-8? How does a 1-8 football team get in there? I believe their only win was against Mentor, and that's who that they're going to face in this first round. So it's interesting how these 16 teams qualifying kind of shakes out, you know, but I do see the Glen Oak Golden Eagles beating Lorraine, moving on, taking on St. Ed. When I look at some upsets, for me, you know, it's really hard to call in the first round. I know that one team I'm going to be keeping my eye on in Division IV are the Canton South Wildcats. They just finished off their first perfect season, regular season in school history, going 10-0. They beat Northwest over in Canal Fulton on the road last week, 48-28. They are going to host Northwest now at Breck Miller Stadium. So they're going to have them back being a 1 seed. Northwest comes in at the 16. I don't see that game turning out any different, but I will tell you this. I just heard you and Matt talking before you guys went to commercial, how hard it is to beat a team twice in the same year, let alone in back-to-back weeks. Week 10 and then the first round of the playoffs. You know, Northwest is going to have to do a lot of things different than what they did last week if they want to be in this game, but there's nothing that is considered impossible, especially when you're talking about two teams that are right inside of Stark County and consider themselves rivals playing in Week 10. I think for the Massillon Tigers, this is going to be interesting because this is supposed to be their year, you know, until they run into their kryptonite, Hoban, which is going to take on right behind Hoban. They got Walsh going to take on Firestone. So I do see Hoban and also Walsh Jesuit making good runs, but the Mass Tigers welcoming in Central Crossing out of Grove City, that's going to be a tough trip for that team out of Grove City to take because the Massillon Tigers are absolutely firing on all cylinders right now, Jackson. They just beat the McKinley Bulldogs in their house, Tom Benson Stadium, the site where you and I got a chance to first meet last year. That was a 35-0 game in one of the greatest high school football rivalries in North America. That type of stuff isn't supposed to happen. So when you think about a team like Massillon, is this their year? I really think it could be, man. They are primed and rolling on firing on all cylinders. Now, the McKinley Dogs, who fell 35-0, they are actually going to have to take on Strongsville. Strongsville is going to come down and take on McKinley. That's a 4-13 match inside of Division I, Region I, and I would not doubt if Strongsville is able to come down there. You ask for an upset, wouldn't doubt if Strongsville comes down and beats the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and I love how you mentioned Massillon, Washington, because Massillon, Washington, again, you mentioned it's their season, and not only that, but the amount of momentum that they have carrying into the postseason, just taking down Canton McKinley, one of the best, if not the best, rivalries in all of the United States, not just in the state of Ohio, but ended up taking them down 35-0. And Canton McKinley, that's a team that's 7-3 on the season. It's not like they're a walk in the park. That's a very good football team, and Massillon, Washington made them look like they're a elementary school team.
Yeah, they did. And, you know, sad because it was marred by a big fight right at the end. For me, the toughest thing to watch when it comes down to a football game is that you've got 4 quarters to be able to handle your business when that ball is snapped, before the whistle's blown, all the fighting you want to do, Jackson. So everything that would get put in a jail cell out football field, you can do in between those 4 quarters. They allowed themselves to lose control in the handshake line, and it's just weak. It's weak stuff, and I saw this, and I tell you this because we were talking about the Jackson Polar Bears, which I'll make mention, and I couldn't hear. I'm sorry, a little loud where I'm at down here, but I heard you guys talking about Jackson to take on Berea Mid-Park. Jackson concede. Jackson and Berea Mid-Park played last year in round 1 of the playoffs, and there's not a whole lot of history and success for the Jackson Polar Bears in the playoffs. They were able to beat Berea Mid-Park here at home at Robert Fife Stadium. This year, they're going to have to go on the road. I don't know if Jackson has enough to be able to get it done, rocking a young sophomore quarterback, Lucas Eckerman, who has track speed, has a good arm. He's able to do a lot of things for just a 10th grader, but he does have a great offensive line in front of him. He has the receiver position, and I both know if you only got 2 to 3 seconds before there's guys in here forcing you off schedule, you're going to have issues. And I think the Jackson Polar Bears may have some issues going up there to take on the Titans. Now, I will tell you this. The McKinley Bulldogs, after they faced the Jackson Polar Bears back, I want to say it was week 8. Now, Jackson, they would lose at home. The McKinley Bulldogs, that gave them a Federal League title. There's dissension in the locker room after this football game. To me, it's like, wow, you just won a league title. You're getting ready to go and face a Glen Oak team to get an outright Federal League title. If you have dissension in your room, to me, it's just there's some things going on there with the Bulldogs. Lead me to believe this could be a round 1 bad mismatch for them, and I think Strongsville could get the W.
And TJ, you talk about big rivalry games. Of course, Camp McKinley and Massillon, Washington. That is a tremendous rivalry. And we will see another rivalry. I'm going to turn the page and talk about Southwest Ohio. You're from Northeast. I'm from Southwest. And one matchup I'm super excited for is going to be in Division I, Region 2, Springfield at Wayne. We saw those two teams meet back in week 4, and that was insane. Absolutely crazy how that game finished. Wayne was going down to kneel out the time. They were in shotgun formation because, I don't know why, but they didn't want to snap the ball under center. It was a bad snap. Springfield got it back. Aaron Scott threw a touchdown pass. And just when you think Springfield wins it, Wayne then runs the kickoff back for a touchdown as time expired to win the game and beat the Springfield Wildcats. It was insanity at Hyde Camp Stadium way back in week 4. I'm expecting much of the same here in this week 11 matchup between Springfield and Wayne.
Yeah, I think Springfield, what I saw from them last year when they took on St. Ed in the Division I state championships with them, it just is unfortunate for anybody that has to face St. Ed. They are that good. They have 4 Division I college offensive linemen that are all going to the Big Ten. I mean, think about having to deal with that. I mean, you and I could get the handoff in the backfield and run behind that offensive line, Jackson. I mean, that is just, it's different. You don't see that in high school football. Springfield, they just have to bring a little bit of extra effort in that Wayne game because that's one of those that you talked about. From seeing them in week 4 to having that time to build and kind of rebound and get everything back direction for Wayne. I mean, that's one that they could be able to go after and take. One of the matchups I'm going to talk to you about too, just so happens to be the Central Catholic Crusaders. They are 3-time state champs in the state of Ohio. They just celebrated the 35th anniversary of their first state championship under Lowell Kleinfeld back, I want to say that was week 9, when they took on the Jackson Polar Bears at home at Lowell Kleinfelder Field. Jackson was able to get the victory. Now Central, they're going to host Cardinal out of Middlefield. And I think this is a Central team, the way that they constantly play up, this is a D5 team. Check that D6 team, and they play D1, D2. I mean, you think about that. A D6 team that is competing against the Jaguars in D1, all of a sudden you get into that D6 tournament, into that bracket, and it's easy for you to run through because you've seen bigger, better, faster, stronger than you. Now all of a sudden you're playing teams back down on your level, and typically it comes down to when they would see like a Norwayne or somebody like like that. Maybe like a Milan Edison up in Cleveland that can really test them inside of D6. But I look for the Central Catholic Crusaders to make a run here. They have a bunch of talented players led by transfer quarterback from East Canton, Brennan Betts. They have a great running back / wide receiver / defensive guy / do-it-all special teams in Dan Boron. They have a 6'7", 295-pound offensive tackle by the name of Jonathan Stengel. This is a really good Central team. When they get into the tournament here come tomorrow night, when they huddle, I think they could really make some noise. You know, another one around here in our area, number 1 seed Garaway, the Pirates out of the Inter Valley Conference. They're tough, and I think they'll be able to run through this bracket as well.
TJ, one thing I love about you is you're in Disneyland. You're still taking time to call into the show and help host with me. And not only that, no notes. You're doing all of this off the top of your head. That is absolutely great. TJ, we love you here.
Hey, man, listen, I would not have it any other way. I apologize that my signal may be a little bit choppy down here in Orlando, and I'm in this, they call the restaurant the Contemporary. Now, there's going to be nothing contemporary about what happens tomorrow night when these teams hit the field. I'm trying to do my math here. You said us, but I don't have my calculator in front of me, but I believe is it 400 teams throughout 7 divisions will have a shot, you know, for a state championship come tomorrow night. I love the fact that we'll cut half of that in half, and some people's dreams will be crushed because you learn a lot about yourself in losses. But also the teams that would progress to round 2 and round 3. This is what makes it exciting. There's nothing better than play. You know, for me, when I look at what's going to shake out here in Division 2, I cannot wait to potentially see a Hobin matchup because that will be epic. I just heard yesterday that I believe Eli Lee, the linebacker for Hobin, just committed to Ohio State. They already have an offensive lineman that is committed to Ohio State. I believe there's a 3rd guy on that team that's committed to Ohio State. And then you got the son of legendary Buckeye, C. Grant, C. Willie, out of New Philly, baby. That's my guy. You know, if you've ever heard him sing Carmen, Ohio, the hair on the back of your neck will stand up. And C's son, Braden Grant, is a stud secondary player over there at Hobin. It's a really, really strong year in and year out. They reloaded, you know, got some new players in there doing different things. And again, I don't expect anything different than a matchup, we'll call it by week 14, between them and the Tigers. So this is going to get fun, man. I'm excited how it all shakes out. You know, everybody's got a chance come tomorrow night. Again, Saturday morning, some people are going to wake up. Their season's going to be, you're going to be turning in your equipment. That's what makes this special. Win or go home, or your season's done.
TJ, we invite you to stay with us. We're going to take a small commercial break. We'll be back here in just a couple of minutes, though.
Perfect.
Come on, guys, let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hi!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe. And I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Come on, guys, let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hi!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe. And I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We welcome you back here to the TKDS Sports Network. Jackson Lightcap, and I'm joined with our special guest from Stark Media, TJ Downing. TJ and Stark Media, they are, of course, from Stark County in Ohio. He brings a lot of knowledge to all of the brackets in Northeast Ohio. So, TJ, once again, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to be with us.
Yeah, sure thing, man. Jackson, I know just picking up where we left off there on the last segment, let's talk a little bit more about the Federal League, man. You know, when you think about teams that see each other on a year-in, year-out basis inside of their league and then get a chance to see each other in the postseason around one, you're going to get that inside of Division II, Region 7 with the Lake Blue Streaks and the Perry Panthers. Lake was able to beat Perry easily, pretty handily in the regular season, late in. Now Perry's going to have to travel over there to Lake, and they're going to square up here tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see how the Lake Blue Streaks bounce back, Jackson. Last week, they had a chance taking on the Green Bulldogs, who are going to host St. Charles out of Columbus, a really tough program there as well. But Lake had a chance to get a piece of that Federal League title that the McKinley Bulldogs ultimately would win outright. And that's because the Lake Blue Streaks dropped an egg against the Green Bulldogs. That was a 28-0 beating that the Green Bulldogs, put on the Lake Blue Streaks. And in Week 10, you don't want to have that on your shoulders or in the back of your mind as you're getting ready to go into the playoffs. The Lake Blue Streaks can clean their hands of that, getting a victory over the Perry Panthers. But the Perry Panthers play a different breed of football, man. If you've ever seen it, it's that wing T offense. You know, and regardless of what you do, if they can keep your offense off the field, chew up a bunch of clock, get a couple scores off of those rushing attacks out of the wing T, they can change the entire dynamic and complexion of a football game real quick. So I'm going to see how the Perry Panthers will compete against the Lake Blue Streaks when that all shakes out tomorrow night, because they're Federal League foes. They see each other every year, and they don't like each other. Nobody in the Federal League does. So on top of that, when we talk about the Green Bulldogs, again, peaking at the right time. If you're a head football coach in the state of Ohio right now, you want to make sure for the playoffs, you're playing your best brand of football right now come tomorrow night. And for the Green Bulldogs, they're doing that. Coach Marks, a former foe of mine, he was an offensive lineman at Hoover back when I used to have to beat up on him back in the day. Mark Geis has his Green Bulldogs rolling. Now, opposite of what the Perry Panthers bring to the table with that wing T offense, Green Bulldogs go with that empty backfield, spread them out, 5 wide, shotgun every play, maybe mix a couple jet sweeps in, and man, they can do some pretty interesting things, and they can score points very fast. Guys like Leah, Antonio Martin, Jarrett Taylor, Anthony Mandarine, these are elite wide receivers in the state of Ohio, not just Northeast Ohio. Zach Bagley last year had 32 catches. 32 catches in one football game. There's kids that don't even have 32 catches in a season or a career. So
7-11.
That can beat you quick. They're going to host St. Charles out of Columbus, and I expect the Green Bulldogs to make some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, TJ, you mentioned 32 catches in a game. That's insane. I mean, Jamar Chase for the Cincinnati Bengals had 15 in Arizona, and then he went out and said 7-11, always open. I think that's a true definition of a 7-11, always open.
That's it, man. I'll tell you what, teams that can score, they present a challenge. Just like I said, teams that cannot score quick and they run the ball, they also present that. But if you're going to run the ball, you have got to make sure that you are finishing your drives with touchdowns, because field goals will not get it done. And I'm really excited to kind of see how all of these teams get out there and compete. Another team I look at, one of our locals, the Fairless Falcons. They're coming off the back of probably the best 3-year stretch in school history under head coach A.J. Sarbaugh. Now, they've underperformed this year. When I say they've been under 500. They're going to have to go and take on defending state champ South Range out of the Mahoning Valley. And South Range may not be the same football team that they were last year, but when you talk about a 2-15 matchup, Pharaohs Falcons, boy, they're going to have to be strapped up and ready to roll tomorrow night when they go and they take on South Range. So, those are really the matchups I'm looking forward to. If I shows up, who competes, who's not scared when they're getting off the bus, playing a defending state champ or playing somebody that's a 1 seed. Because as a 16 or a 15, you very easily can lose that game, Jackson, before you ever even step foot off the bus.
TJ, let's shift our focus on over to Division III. Matt and I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. And one thing that's interesting about Division III, the top 4 teams in the state of Ohio, when it comes to the AP poll, they are all from 4 different regions. You have Toledo Central Catholic, you have Hamilton Baden, you have Youngstown Ursuline, and you have Columbus Watterson.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Dan Reardon, what he's done up there at Ursuline, he's another one of those guys that he can take his team when they do scrimmages early in the season. He'll bring them down here to the Hall of Fame, and he will scrimmage against McKinley. He'll scrimmage against Glen Oak because he knows that if he can compete with his boys in D3 against one caliber talent, then there's going to be some things that teams are going to struggle with on him and his crew in the playoffs. I will tell you this. Nobody should be able to touch Toledo Central Catholic in Division III after what we saw them do last year, Jackson. You and I had eyeballs on it right there at Tom Benson Stadium. That's a real man's team. D2, they handled their business against Hoban. What are they going to do now in D3? It should not be any different story. That song's going to remain the same, partner. I'll tell you what, though, Ursuline, from the games I've seen, from the stat lines that I've seen, they have high power on offense. They are physically strong on defense, and they will hit you. They're going to have all of that together, in which I expect will finally up between them and Toledo Central Catholic. A lot of weeks still ahead before that could happen, and I know Baden has tons of history there as well. They were in the state championship game just, maybe 2-3 years ago. So it's going to be interesting to see how Division III shakes out. But I expect Ursuline to be right there in the thick of things, but I don't see Toledo Central Catholic.
TJ, once again, thanks for taking time. We're going to let you get back spending time with your daughter. That's what Disney World's all about. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Once again, TJ, thanks for taking time and joining us here on the TKDS Sports Network for our Thursday night show.
There you go. We'll leave you with a little bit of goofy, man. I'm the goofy dad tonight, man. We'll see you guys out there tomorrow night.
Well, thank you, TJ. Once again, TJ Downing from Stark Media calling in all the way from Disney World. He provides a lot of tremendous knowledge from Northeast Ohio and the Northeast regions coming from Stark County. Once again, we're going to take another small break. When we return, we should have another guest on the line. It's Coach George Howard. He has a lot of knowledge. He'll have a lot of knowledge from the Columbus market. That's all coming up next on Sports Now.
Come on, guys, let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hi!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe. And I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hi!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe. And I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We welcome you back here to the TKDS Sports Network. We were just joined with TJ Downing from Stark Media from Northeast Ohio. Now let's get some knowledge on the Columbus market, and we welcome in Coach George Howard, host of the Coach Howard Show. George, can you hear us?
Yeah, what's going on, Jackson? My guy Jackson, man, what's going on?
Coach, how are you doing? It has been a long time since we've been able to work together. Happy to have you on the show.
Hey, you know, I always tell Kevin that my guy that I want to do some games with, that I can't wait to be with my partner again, is Jackson. You know, when me and you do high school basketball, I don't think there's a better tandem in the state than me and you. I don't care who they bring on. We'll go up against anybody in the state, you know, and I'm looking forward to it. I know me and you got some big games that we're going to be calling together this year, and I'm super excited about it, and I can't wait for you and I to get together and do some high school basketball. But hold on, not so fast. We're still doing high school football right now. So let's talk about some high school football.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Coach, working with you last season was absolutely great. I know we have a full circuit of basketball events coming to the viewers' way this upcoming season, so cannot wait for that. But just as you said, hold your horses. We're still in football season, and in fact, football season, it seems like, is just beginning. Week 1 of the OHSAA postseason. I know you're a Columbus guy. What are some teams to watch out for in the Columbus market?
Well, the first things first is that it doesn't matter what you've done in the regular season, okay? Now you are 0-0. You know, you can say, well, midway through, or you can go in at halftime of a game and you can say, okay, well, the score is 0-0. But now is really your record is 0-0 right now. The only difference, Jackson, is that if you lose now, you're going home for the fall. That's the only difference. But you can throw the records out the window right now. It doesn't matter if you're 10-0, such as Gahanna, probably one of the top teams in the state. The top team in Central Ohio. They're 10-0. They beat a very good Pickerington North team last week in double overtime, which was a great game, but it doesn't matter no more. You're 0-0. You've got some good teams down this way, Jackson. You've got Pick North and Gahanna, who is probably 1 and 2, I would say. Then you've got Hilliard Bradley, who is right there behind them. You've got Olentangy Berlin, and you've got some other pretty good teams as well. Hey, it's going to be a dogfight down this way, and I can't wait to get started tomorrow night. Myself, along with Jay Beesky, Jimmy Bell, former Ohio State Buckeye, who's my co-host on the Coach Howard Show, we'll be calling the game tomorrow night at Pick Central, as it's Pick Central and New Albany get started to kick off the playoffs.
Absolutely. And you talked about Pick Central, the Pickerington Central Tigers. The Tigers have been one of the more underrated teams in Central Ohio so far this season. Outside of their 3-game losing streak when they lost to Centerville, Pickerington North, and Gahanna Lincoln, 3 of the top teams in the state of Ohio. I mean, Pickerington North, they are 9-1. They're ranked number 7 at the end of the season, according to OHSAA AP poll. And then, of course, Gahanna Lincoln, they're number 2. Centerville, they're number 10. So Pickerington Central, their only 3 losses on the season have been to 3 top 10 teams in the state of Ohio. Outside of that, a very tough schedule played for the Tigers. They're entering Region 3, I beg your pardon, as the 5 seed. That's a Tiger squad that can make some noise.
Well, I'll tell you, man, you know, Pick Central, of course, I live in the Pickerington, and I'm very familiar with Pick Central. You know, they've been kind of up and down this year, but it's going to be an interesting test for them tomorrow night. I think it's good that they kick off their playoffs with a team like New Albany. You know, New Albany, you know, they were expected to do a little better than what they did this year, but they're a tough physical football team. And I think that if I'm Coach LaMonaco, I want to play a team like that to kick off my playoffs, because that's going to get us ready for the next games to come. But Pick Central, they're a little bit of a question mark. Good quarterback, young quarterback, been up and down this year. They've got some really good receivers. They haven't really used the receivers the way they should. They've got some size on the receiving. They've got one of the top tight ends in the country, who committed to – where did he commit to? Purdue. He's going to Purdue. So Pick Central has got a good defense. So we'll see tomorrow. I think it's going to come down your Final Four in this region. It's going to come down to Pick Central, Hilliard Bradley, Gahanna, and Pick North. That's my Final Four in this region.
And not to mention, 5 teams in Central Ohio finishing the regular season ranked inside the top 10 when it comes to the AP poll. Those 5 teams, Gahanna Lincoln, that's number 2. Olentangy, number 5. Hilliard Bradley, number 6. Pick North, number 7. Olentangy Berlin, number 8. Out of all of those 5 teams, who do you think is the strongest and why?
Well, I'm kind of surprised at the rankings, Jackson, when you talk about Berlin and Olentangy. Olentangy's got one of the, I would say, probably the top quarterback in the area. But, those teams, I don't know if they're right there with Pick North and Gahanna and Bradley. I think you could say, though, that Bradley, Olentangy, and Berlin are kind of right there neck and neck with each other. And then I would put North and Gahanna just a little bit ahead of them. But I would say Gahanna is probably the team that would be my pick and most people's pick in this area to come out of this region. And the reason I say that is I've seen them twice. We've done their games. Also, I think that their running game is probably the best that I've seen. The quarterback is solid. Their defense is strong, big. They hit hard. Their offensive line is big. They play a good style of offense to where they mix it up, but they can run that ball on you too. So I think it's going to be Gahanna coming out of here, but you never know. I've been wrong before.
Yeah, Gahanna Lincoln, the season that they were able to put together so far this year, perfect 10-0. And they played a very tough schedule. And, Coach, one of the top games probably across the entire state of Ohio for the whole entire season was last week when Gahanna Lincoln was able to beat Pickerington North in double overtime by a score of 35-28.
Yes, it was. As I mentioned to kick off the show, it was a tough game. It was a hard-fought game. They went back and forth. When you thought one was going to be in control, the other one jumped up. When you thought that team was okay, now they're going to be in control, the other one came back, but they were trading points for points. Pick North would score. Gahanna would come down and score. Gahanna would score again. Pick North would. I tell you what, I actually think, Jackson, that Pick North should have won that ball game. I think Pick North had opportunities to seal that game where it didn't even have to go into overtime. But hey, that's why they play the game, and Gahanna end up, taking advantage of some opportunities that was thrown to them, and they end up winning that game. But I think they're going to play again. I believe that those 2 teams will play again in the regional final, and TKDS Sports Network will be right there to follow that game and call that game. And hopefully, if that's the region down here, I can get you down here with me. If I can't, hey, listen, that means if you're not down here with me calling that game, that means you're somewhere else calling another regional final.
Absolutely. And George, one thing that we talk about so many times on this show and just in general, Matt and I mentioned this, I can't tell you how many times when we're off air, how hard it is to take down the same team 2 times in a season. And if Gahanna does meet Pickerington North once again, that does come into play, a factor. It is very tough, especially in high school football. This high level of talent it's tough to beat a team 2 times in the same year.
It is, and I agree with you 100%. But what that comes down to is coaching. It comes down to who's going to make the right adjustments, who's going to make the adjustments on defense, who's going to make the adjustments on offense, who's going to have their team more prepared for the game. But I think it's going to come down to those two. It is hard to beat a team 2 times in a row, but if there's one team that can do it, I think it's Gahanna. But let me tell you something. Pick North, they're tough, man. They are gritty. They've got a senior quarterback that has had a really good year. They've got a running back that's going to Ohio State. So North is pretty good, and it's going to be tough. I mean, I want to say Gahanna's going to win it, but my heart says I won't pick North to win it because I'm a Pickerington guy. But being in the broadcasting part of it, trying to stay neutral, I'm gonna say it's a toss-up.
Yeah, it would be an absolutely tremendous game when those 2 teams meet. And if those 2 teams meet, there could be a lot of upsets down the road.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Let's turn this around a little bit. I know this is your show, the Jackson I know it's your show, but let's turn it around and let me ask you a question. Who is Jackson down? Who would they meet this region, coming out of this region? Which region would they meet? And who do you think is the top teams coming out of the other regions down that way in Dayton?
Some of the top teams coming out in Division I, coming out of the Dayton area. In Region 2, it's a toss-up. Region 2, Centerville right now, they're the number 10 ranked team in the entire state of Ohio. But Matt and I just mentioned right before you came on, George, Centerville, it seems like they're led by their defense. They have not found an offensive identity so far this season, and heading into Week 11, that certainly worries me. Of course, Wayne, they've really come to life over the last couple of weeks. They're the 5 seed. Tough matchup, though, against Springfield. Springfield, bit of a down year. I know you're a Columbus guy. You live in the central region. You may disagree with me on this. I think the 11 seed Fairmont Firebirds pull an upset over the Shamrocks of Dublin-Kaufman this upcoming week.
Have you seen them play? Fairmont?
Dublin-Kaufman?
No, Fairmont.
Yes, they are a very run-heavy team.
Okay. Kaufman is the same. Kaufman is a tough team, very well coached. They can get the ball up and down the field. They can pass the ball. They can run the ball. They've got a good defense. We could be looking at a really, really good game. Is that the game you're calling this weekend?
No, I am down south as Mason will take on Lebanon. And, Coach, you asked me if I know Fairmont. I went to school there, so a little familiar. I'm not saying that because of bias, but it seems like in times past, and I explained this a little bit ago, it seems like teams here in the Dayton and Cincinnati market, they know Fairmont. They play against them. They know their tendencies. They know they're a very run-heavy team. They run the triple option. They like to take shots deep and play action when those safeties creep up into the box. But the teams around here, especially in the GWalk, they know that. They know the tendencies. But we see Fairmont, when they go play teams for the first time, because they run a style of offense that, frankly, is just not ran much in today's game of football. A very run-heavy triple option. You don't see that a whole lot. So when you go outside the Cincinnati-Dayton market, and when Fairmont faces teams that are not necessarily familiar with that offensive style, they struggle. We saw Fairmont take down Perrysburg. Perrysburg a couple years ago, one of the top teams in Region 2. Fairmont, they came in, 4-win team. They pulled the upset. And it wasn't just an upset. It was a convincing upset. I believe they won that game 48-20. Don't quote me on that. But Fairmont, in times past, has been able to utilize their, I don't want to say weird style of offense because it's very effective, but they are able to utilize that to their advantage because it's an offense ran that you typically don't see today in today's football, and it catches defenses off guard.
Wow. Well, that's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to the playoffs starting tomorrow night. I'll be following closely down in your area. Matter of fact, I will give you a call just to see what's going on, and maybe we can come back next week and talk about what's going on in week 2 and what happened in week 1 down in this area. And it's going to be good, man. It's going to be, I tell you, I told somebody yesterday, Jackson, that I think there's going to be some upsets. I think there's going to be some upsets this weekend that people were not expecting, because when sometimes it happens every year, these lower seeds, they sneak up on these higher seeds, and the higher seeds take the lower seeds for granted. And I think that we may see 1 or 2 upsets. What do you think?
Coach, I completely agree with you. I think we're going to see some upsets. One game to keep an eye out on is it's Division 4. I'm going to go Region 16. 15 seed Urbana, the Hill Climbers. They're coming out of a very tough Central Buckeye Conference. They're going up against Chillicothe Unioto, the 2 seed. Unioto, the Sherman Tanks, that's a very good team. But at the same time, when you look at strength of schedule, Urbana 7-3, and they've played a more dominant and more tough schedule. I think Chillicothe Unioto is one of those teams on upset alert.
Well, I'm not familiar with those teams, but I will tell you this. I'll bet you that's going to be a good game. I'm not too familiar with those. I'm not too familiar with those teams, but one thing I can say about you, Jackson, you know your homework and you're on top of it. So you can tell me a little bit about those Division 4 teams, which you do have one down here that's pretty good in Harvest Prep. They're pretty good. They're Division 4, aren't they?
I could do some research.
Well,
Blanking
no,
off
they
the top
are
of my
Division
head.
4, but they're Division 4 and they're pretty good. They're ranked in the top 10, I believe. But I'm excited about all the teams, and I look forward to watching them and looking at the scoreboard tomorrow night.
Absolutely. Coach, we invite you to stay with us to end the show. We still have a couple more minutes. We still have about 10 more minutes left in the show, but it is time to take a quick commercial break. So we invite you to stay with us for another segment.
Thank you.
We'll be back on the TKDS Sports Network.
Let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hey!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe, and I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Hi, Daddy.
Hey!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe, and I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Jackson Lightcap here on the TKDS Sports Network. I'm joined with host of the Coach Howard Show. It's the coach himself, Coach George Howard. Coach, thanks once again for joining us.
Hey, you know, I'm sitting here looking at the brackets for this region, Jackson, and I'm going to tell you something. This week may not be no upsets, but next week it gets real gritty down here in Central Ohio, because if Gahanna-Lincoln, which they will win tomorrow night, they'll take on the winner of Grove City and Hilliard-Davidson. And both of those teams are hard-nosed football teams. Now, when you look at the next one, you got Upper Arlington plays Thomas Worthington tomorrow night, which I think Upper Arlington will win that game. But then the winner of that game gets the winner of the Pickerington Central New Albany game. What a game that's going to be, Upper Arlington and Pick Central, if it moves on the way it's supposed to. Then you've got Hilliard Bradley, which will beat Newark tomorrow night. Then they'll play the winner of Westerville North and Lancaster, which Westerville North should win that game tomorrow night. Now, let me tell you, Westerville North has the Ohio State Buckeye connection. I'm sure you're probably familiar with that situation over there. They've done a great job with that team this year, and they will have that team up and prepared to play a tough Hilliard Bradley team. So that's going to be another good game. Then you've got Pickerington North playing Westerville Central tomorrow night, which is going to be a solid game. But they're going to play the winner of Hilliard Darby and Groveport Madison, and Darby is a very solid team. I'll tell you what, this is going to be one to watch. It's going to be one to watch. And once again, I still pick my Final Four teams as Gahanna, Pick Central, Hilliard Bradley, and Pick North. But here's the, and Pick North. They'll have to play each other. So those are my four teams. It would end up being Gahanna and Pick Central, and Bradley and Pick North. So if you really look at it, Jackson, Gahanna might have the easier road to the regional final.
Coach, we've talked plenty about some of the top dogs in Columbus, of course, Division I. Take a look at some of the other divisions as well. And I'm looking at Division IV. Bishop Hartley from Columbus having a great season. They're ranked number 7 in the AP poll in the state of Ohio, and a couple of tough playoff matchups as well coming up in some of the lower divisions in Columbus.
Yeah, Bishop Hartley is a very good, well-coached team. They're solid on both sides of the ball, offensive and defense. They've got a nice ground game to go along with the passing game. They've got some seniors that are very good, along with some solid juniors. I look for Hartley to at least make it to maybe the regional finals down in that part of that district.
Bishop Watterson as well. They're out of Division III. That's another team to keep an eye out on. I beg your pardon. It would have been a perfect undefeated season. They lost against St. Francis de Sales last Friday night, 27-24, but still a 9-1 record for the Watterson Eagles.
Watterson is a tough team. I haven't seen them much, but they're solid, very well coached. They can get you on both sides of the football. They've got a nice running game, also can pass the ball. Defense is solid. I look for Watterson to make a run. I look for them to go deep into the tournament. And, when you play, it's like Watterson and DeSales is like Pick Central and Pick North. It's a rivalry. So when those two teams play, you can throw the records out the window. And DeSales came away with the victory. And that probably made their whole season to beat Watterson.
And Coach, heading into this time of the year, the weather starts cutting cold. It's instead of it getting dark outside in the fourth quarter, it is dark the whole game through. It is just a different atmosphere. It is a different vibe. And guess what? Round 1 of the OHSA playoffs for this season kicks off tomorrow. Hard to believe we're already here.
Hey, listen, I've told our boss that he needs to have a heater in there for me. I'm an old guy. I don't know if my bones is going to be able to take it, but I'm going to be there, bundled up, calling the games, enjoying it, having a good time, and I can't wait. It's exciting. But you know how sometime November can get, oh, Lord have mercy. Listen, my sons played for Pick Central. My boys got a couple state championships in this house, and so my son coached there for 12 years. Basketball as well. So I've been downstate with Pickerington Central. I know how cold it was sitting out there. I know how the weather gets in the end of November. And listen, I'm ready to go. But Kevin better have me bundled up, warm, and heated up. But I'm excited about it. It's going to be a great run. It's nothing like this playoffs in football, man, because everybody plays. But it's going to come down to coaching, if you ask me. It's going to come down to which coach has their team the most prepared, and who's going to be able to throw some things in there that the other team hasn't seen. See, everybody's watching film. So everybody's sitting down watching film. It's going to be about who's going to be able to put together some new things that's going to help them win football games. Because if you're doing the same exact thing that you've done all season, you're not going to win. I guarantee you it's going to take throwing in some new wrinkles and changing up some things to win ball games. And listen, the time is now. Let's go. Let's get it. It's ready to go, baby. I'm excited.
It's exciting this time of year. And, Coach, you talked to Kevin, the boss of TKDS, the founder of TKDS, saying that you needed a heater in the press box. Well, I'll also go out there and say it's probably not going to happen because we told him to stop copying and pasting Matthew Pennington's picks in our game picks segment for our Saturday show, but yet he still continues to do that. He was 6 games below 500, and then it's obvious. It's blatantly obvious, and I'm saying this now because I know he's watching. It's blatantly obvious that it's a copy and paste between messages, and now since then, he's, I think, 6 games above 500. It's crazy. But I guess use your resources. So you tell him to get a heater in the press box and bundle you up, but it won't happen. I love Boss Man Kevin. I love the founder of TKDS Sports Network, Kevin, and I know he's watching right now, and that's the only reason why I'm saying this on live air.
He's watching because he helped me. He's watching. That's our guy. That's my guy. And I don't know what we would do without him. He does such a great job at what he does, and he's the conductor of this train, and he keeps it going, and he does a great job. And I've been glad to be a part of this family for almost a year now, and I'm looking forward to just doing more and more. But he better get that heater together because I can't handle the cold. So this is my first year doing football. I'm having a great time with it, but I know it gets cold in them press boxes. So, I'm an old man who has thin blood. But let's get it, man. Tomorrow night is not going to be super cold, so let's have fun tomorrow night. That's all I'm excited about.
Once again, that is Coach George Howard from The Coach Howard Show, also powered by the TKDS Sports Network. Make sure to watch his shows Sunday on any TKDS social media page. Coach, once again, thanks for joining us, and best of luck to you tomorrow.
Can I throw a plug in there real quick?
Absolutely.
Hey, listen, next Sunday, Jackson, I kick off we'll be on the air Sunday, but next Sunday, each and every year, I have my college preseason special. It's going to be a great show next Sunday. I've got Coach Bob Huggins coming on, the former West Virginia head coach, who had some things go on, as we'll discuss some of those things along with the upcoming season, NIL, portal transfer, and other things. I've also got the head coach of Wisconsin University, Ohio State University, Cincinnati University, and a surprise guest coming on as well. So next Sunday is going to be the Coach Howard College preseason show because the season starts the next day, and I'm excited about that. And then in a couple weeks after that, we will have the Central Ohio High School basketball preseason show on the Coach Howard Show. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you soon, Jackson, and thank you for asking me to come on. It was an honor.
Absolutely. Coach, you have to be back with us next week again. We'll talk more Central Ohio football. Once again, that is Coach George Howard from the Coach Howard Show, powered by the TKDS Sports Network. Well, Week 11 is here, and we've reached the end of our show. I'm Jackson Lightcap, the entire TKDS Sports Network crew, alongside Matthew Pennington. Thanks for dealing with us. We'll talk to you Saturday morning, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.